simple. Yeah, hold on. Because I'm not quite ready to get started. Alright. So, this is gonna be the Great Ace Attorney the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, the second game of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles on the Nintendo Switch. This is gonna be part 3 of our playthrough. We're still midway through episode 2, I'd say. Yeah, something like that. And let's continue. I have to publish on Discord because the other day I forgot to do so. And there we go. Right, we're good to go. I'm proud to be the company's East End branch investigator and meter money collection agent. Ultimate gas meters accept 3 bits, each coin giving customers about 2 hours of gorgeous gas. I'm getting gas just thinking about it. And yet the meter in Mr. Shamspeare's room didn't have a single coin in it. Yeah, hold on, let me press on that. Out of interest, how long has this been going on? Weeks and weeks! He's been pinching gas off us for ages! And you've examined the meter in Mr. Shamspeare's room, I take it? Naturally, we took it off the wall and went over it with a fine-tooth comb. And found nothing suspicious at all, I presume? No, I'm afraid we didn't, which is exactly why I demanded a new type of meter to be produced, one with an indestructible lock, the Shamspeare Special. They even name it after the guy. That sounds like it would have cost an awful lot of 3-penny pieces. Is that a thing? A 3-penny piece? Did that exist? Like 3 pennies? In a coin? Okay. 3 pence is what I should say. 3 pence. But even after all that, the rascal's meter was still empty. I'll never forget the humiliation when I opened up the money box and found it bare. You what? I said. You what? And the look on his face, that smarmy smile of his. I pulled the meter straight off the wall and took it back to the office. But you know what? Nothing! Not a trace of it being jemmied open anywhere, not a single sign. That does sound weird indeed. And what's happening to my salary as a result? Down by 3 shillings a day, that's what. A life-threatening situation in a number of ways. Incidentally, what became of that meter? Nothing became of it. I've still got it. Can we have a look at it? Maybe they're just incredibly incompetent and just didn't notice that something was wrong with it. Right here, no wonder they called you Meterman. He has a meter with him. I think it would be prudent for the court to sequester this item while the trial is going. The gas meter has been entered into the court record. Let me have a look at it. Hey, there's a hole in it. And you didn't notice that? That's the extent of your fine comb? Have you spotted something, Mr. Naruhodo? Just here, there's a little hole. Do you see? Goodness, you're right. I wouldn't have noticed. It's not a very neat hole, is it? Not professionally made, I'd say. So you think it might have been opened up by Mr. Shamspeare? Possibly. It seems the people at Altamont Gas must have missed it. Well, it certainly seems to go all the way through to the inside. Yes, but there's no way a coin could fit through there. That's true, but even so, it seems more than a little suspicious. I tell you, I bet he makes coin-shaped slices of soap and uses them to pay for the gas, and then, I don't know, maybe he does something at the base of the thing to make it come out or something, like water. To make soapy water, and then he lets it evaporate, and then he remakes the soap at the other end or something. I wouldn't be surprised. Because there is a bar of soap in his house that has a hole in it that's shaped exactly like a coin. Or maybe I just can't imagine exactly in every detail how that works, but it's gonna be something akin to that. That's a very sturdy looking padlock, isn't it? And the money box is sealed with beeswax too. So if Mr. Sholmes were to get up to any mischief, it'd be found out immediately. Mr. Naruhodo, mischief of that kind is not the sort of thing that Mr. Sholmes would... You know you didn't finish that sentence, don't you? Well, anyway, I understand that the gas company would want to safeguard the money that's rightfully theirs. But it does feel a little over the top, perhaps, doesn't it? Okay, there's a padlock here. Ah, okay, my bad. What are all these dials, anyway? Right, well, I can't see anything else. It's the hole that seems to be out of place that is the meaningful hint in this thing. Definitely, although at first glance there doesn't appear to be anything unusual about it. Let's move this along, shall we? Continue with your testimony. Though I would say it has as much value as the contents of that meter. Oof. Oof indeed. The meter doesn't appear to have been tampered with though, and the collection agent has the only key. Should I present the thing here, maybe? Hold on. Ah, well, there we go. Okay, that unlocks the situation already. The ultimate, I'm afraid to say that this meter clearly does show signs of having been tampered with. And it took me, a non-professional, to spot it. What have you guys been smoking? Your own gas? Sniffing your own gas or something? Get away, I've been over and over that thing. I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with it. In that case, what do you have to say about the small hole that's been made at the base of the coin box? Hole? What? You're right. You're quite right. There is a little hole there. The meters aren't supposed to have that. None of the others do. In other words, we can assume that Mr. Shamspear secretly opened up this hole himself. Yes, I wouldn't be at all surprised, but why? I would imagine if this is early 20th century, what kind of technology would they have to identify what is being inserted in? I mean, other than the diameter of the coin, maybe pressing on some springs inside or something like that, I mean, and triggering maybe a timer that goes tick, 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 and something mechanic. It wouldn't be electrical. So you could probably insert anything of the same shape and sort of about the same weight as a coin, and it would work. I would imagine. Yes, I wouldn't be at all surprised, but why? Yeah, why? I mean, it's tiny. You couldn't get a farthing through that. Lady Ultimate, I wonder if you could give the court some more details about your meter design. What sort of details? Well, what I'd specifically like to know is... Yeah, that's a good question. How it differentiates coins. If this is going the way that I think it's going, how does the meter tell the difference between different coins? What do you mean? Well, for example, if someone were to put in a 1 penny coin, that wouldn't work, presumably, would it? No, of course not. So, well, how does the meter know that the coin it's been fed is a threepenny bit? I see what you're getting at now. The meter tells coins apart by their shape and size, and that's all, which includes their thickness. Yeah, diameter, thickness, and that's it, basically, and the fact that it's round. A threepenny bit is about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. You see how the coins just won't fit. I see. It's clearly been very well thought out. But you could insert other things than coins that are same shape and stuff. The witness will amend their formal testimony with that information in case it is pertinent. As you wish, my lord. Okay, well, this is not the end of it then. Okay, let me have a look at my evidence here. Oh, look at this bar of soap. There's a circular depression on this side, about 2 centimeters across. How many inches? Wait, 3/4 of an inch? Ah, do you think? We did find this soap at the scene, didn't we? I knew it! I knew it! There were 2 bars on that little ledge just outside the window, so we took this one. I bet the hole has something to do with getting the soap out of the machine, maybe, or something. Like, maybe he passes water through it, or something like that, to wash away the soap that's on the inside, so that it comes out at the bottom, maybe. There were 2 bars on that little ledge just outside the window, so we took this one. I imagine maybe he puts them on the window outside, so that the soap freezes, so that it's more rigid, because the soap is brittle otherwise. It would maybe disintegrate inside the machine before it can get recognized as a coin. So maybe it's frozen. I didn't take that into account before, but that could be why. I'm sure that when we first found it, there was some sort of reddish medallion in the middle there. I remember it clearly. Yes, but there's no sign of it now. Where could it have gone? A cheap bar of soap that was discovered just outside Mr. Shakespeare's window. A 2 centimeter diameter circular depression in the middle of one surface. Okay, hold on. And what if I present this here now? Or should I press? Ah, well, okay, it seems to be working. Let me just confirm something here. If the diameter and thickness were to be correct, the meter would accept any object as if it were a threepenny bit. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Yeah. The key here is that if he uses soap, he can perhaps wash it away from inside the machine, so that these guys wouldn't know that he inserted something other than a coin inside. That must be why it is soap, because otherwise you could use potentially other solid materials, I guess, that you would make those little bits shaped like coins out of. Well, by something of a coincidence, while we were investigating in Mr. Shakespeare's room, we found a particular item that matches the dimensions perfectly. Something the same size as a threepenny bit? What was it? The item in question is this. What? Have you been inhaling gas? That's a bar of soap. It certainly looks nothing like a threepenny bit, I must say. Yeah, but look at the underside. It looks like I'm going to have to point out exactly what I mean here. What's so important about the soap is this part here. Oh yeah, I have to press X to present. Rather like something else we've been talking about recently, in fact. Mr. Naruhodo, it's this part of the soap you need to show to the court. Yeah, I know. You have to turn over the soap to see what I mean. Ah, are you referring to that round depression in the middle of the soap there? That's right, a depression that's approximately 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Or in other words, almost exactly the same size as a threepenny bit. Get away! Does anyone here present have in their possession a threepenny bit? Quickly now, hand over your coins, ladies and gentlemen. It sounds rather like a highway robbery, doesn't it? Thanks to a kind member of the public in the gallery, I have here a threepenny bit. It's bugging me. I have to know if these existed. Was that really a thing? But then again, British change was sort of a weird thing for a very long time. So, with pence, farthings, shillings, pounds. Ah, yeah, these did exist, apparently. Ah, yeah, 3 pence. 1967, they existed until not that long ago, actually, no? Or do they still exist? Anno was a unit of currency equaling 1/80th of a pound sterling, or 3 old pence sterling. Right. When was it discontinued? Okay, it ceased to be legal tender after the 31st of August, 1971. Oh, that's actually almost exactly 50 years day for day, as of the recording on this, as it happens. But anyway, it didn't look like that exactly, but it did exist. Now, to see if it fits. My word, it couldn't be more snug. Yes, as I suspected. This, without a doubt, is a vital clue to explain how the Ultimate Gas Company is being defrauded. Well, I don't believe it. So, your assertion amounts to what? That some inferior bar of soap has a tentative connection to the theft of gas? Yes, the depression in the soap was clearly made by a threepenny bit. I must concur at least that pushing a coin with some force into a poor quality bar of soap such as this is a remarkably simple way of replicating the coin's shape. And then you could use, well, some melted wax or something to pour into the mold. Ah? Ah, okay, oh, well, he's suggesting that he's not actually using soap, but wax? Well, we did find a red-shaped thing. But yeah, I guess he would use... Yeah, wax would work too, because once the wax is at the bottom, you could, I don't know, use a candle or something to remelt the wax, and it would, come out the bottom. Yeah, I guess that could work too. You wouldn't have to use water. You would have to use, well, fire, but it would work too, I can imagine. You could make fake coins in no time. But there would be traces of wax left, though. It would be harder without opening the box to get all of the wax out, I would imagine. But, well, that depends how in-depth the explanation is going to be from the games, I guess. This brings all the pieces of the puzzle together. It's the method Mr. Shamspear has been using to steal the gas. That's the missing link. And now, if I follow the chain of thought, it's going to bring me to a new explanation for what happened that nobody's considered yet. But this is all nonsense. If the man had been making fake coins, my worker here would have found them when he emptied the meter. Hence the hole. Quite truly, the ultimate, in the absence of some black magic that could make them disappear. I see. That's what we're dealing with, is it? There is one form of black magic that could cause the fake coins to disappear into thin air, yes. Exactly, and the meter here gives it away. What on earth? There are remnants of the magical method used visible on the gas meter taken from the victim's room. If that is your assertion, counsel, the defense will identify these remnants for the court at once. Where on the meter can the remnants of the method used to make the fake coins disappear be seen? Well, the hole, what, right? No? We found this bar of soap at the scene of the crime, just outside the victim's window. Ah, yeah, I guess he would pour the wax in and put them on the window outside where it's freezing, so that the wax would melt and be very rigid, right? Yes, outside, where you yourself, Mr. Meterman, were loitering in the freezing winter air. That's where we found the soap. Ah, I get it! That's right. The answer, of course, is ice. He's not been using wax, he's been using ice. That would, but, yeah, I guess that would be even better, yeah. That reminds me of a gag in Real Genius, that's a movie, where they use frozen solid nitrogen or something like that in the coffee machine. Did you say ice? Mr. Shamspear has been leaving soaps like this outside his window each evening, filled with water. After a night outside in the bitter cold, the water is completely frozen solid the next morning. Then he takes his fake coins of ice and feeds them into the gas meter, giving him light and warmth in spades. As his room becomes very comfortably warm, the ice now inside the meter's coin box melts, turning back into water. Ah yeah, there were actually puddles of water on the ground, I think, in his room. And draining harmlessly away through the small hole made in the underside of the meter. That is how, without leaving any evidence of his wrongdoing, this man has been stealing ultimate gas. Just like that, so simply. Is he trying to make us look like idiots? He's been fooling us all with some bars of soap and some water? That's right, madam. You have to give it to him, though. That was pretty smart. I don't believe it. It can't be true. Do you have any idea how much money we spent to develop that new meter? And now you have the audacity to suggest that a bit of soap and some water can render it totally useless? I'm fairly sure I didn't design it. Evidence! Sorry. I want evidence. If you're going to stand there and tell me our meters are rubbish, I want to see proof. She's very good at enforcing accountability, isn't she? Very well, Lady Ultimate. If you'd like evidence, I'll provide it. What? Mr. Naruhodo, are you saying you do actually have evidence to support this theory? I did notice a trace of something that bothered me a little at the time. Water, yeah. And I have a feeling that this theory we've come up with now could explain it. The piece of evidence that substantiates the theory about how Mr. Shamspear has been stealing gas is the picture, I guess. You can see the water in it. No? Yeah, you can see it, definitely. So that has to be it. This is a photograph of the scene at the point when the victim was discovered, taken by Inspector Gregson. And it clearly shows the remnants of the crime carried out by Mr. Shamspear. What remnants? Here you can see the gas meter on the wall in Mr. Shamspear's room. Now look closely at the floorboards directly underneath the meter. What is that? Some kind of grubby stain. Almost certainly it's a water stain resulting from the liquid that drained out of the hole made in the meter. If one coin gives around 2 hours of gas usage and the occupant was heating his room in all his waking hours, we can imagine he would have used around 10 of his faint coins each day. The melting ice inside the meter's coin box would have been dripping out almost constantly, leaving a stain on the floor. This is awful! And there's further evidence too. Mr. Shamspear is slumped over his table, apparently having consumed strychnine. And right there next to him is a bar of soap broken in half. You're right. It would appear to me then, Counsel, that the man was eating the soap, was he? Wait, what? No, pardon me for disagreeing with your lordship, but... certainly not. He didn't beat about the bush there, did he? In truth, Mr. Shamspear was found with a fork in his hand. A meal of soap is sounding increasingly likely, Lord Van Zeeks. Do you mean to say he was using that fork to... Yes. To extract the frozen coin from the bar of soap. But the bar broke in half. So perhaps it didn't go very well. Good gracious. Lord Van Zeeks. I was throwing my hand up in despair, and happened to catch my hallowed bottle on the way. Pray forgive my maladroit mistake. What is the meaning of this, Counsel? Did I pronounce that right, by the way? Maladroit? Maladroit? I know what it means, but, in fact, I didn't know you could say that in English because it's a French word originally. It means clumsy. How do you say that in English? How do you pronounce it? Allow me to pose my learned friend a question. What exactly did you establish with your most recent cross-examination? Well... that William Shamspear is a liar and a thief. Yeah. And that therefore you can't really trust any word he says?
Maladroit.
Maladroit. Yeah, that's how you say it in English. Okay. Alright then, yeah. That answers my question. That Mr. William Shamspeare is a liar and a thief and a sham. In other words, that his testimony is unreliable. That's it. That's exactly it. Very well. Let us assume the man is a liar. Now allow me to pose another question. What possible difference does that make? Well, we know that suicide can be discounted. Scotland Yard's investigation revealed no sign of another vessel that contained poison. We don't even know that there was any poison at the scene, if anything. And on the night in question, there were no visitors to the room except the accused. The young gasman's testimony, which we have no reason to doubt, has confirmed that. Furthermore, the only possible way the poison could have entered the victim's body is via the tea. The court has seen no evidence whatsoever that suggests otherwise. But what proof do we have that it was strychnine? Like, did you find it in his body or what? The court has seen no evidence whatsoever that suggests otherwise. He could have been faking. Even if William Shamspeare is the liar you claim him to be, these facts have been objectively established. There is no escaping it. Therefore, in light of these facts, the prosecution calls for immediate adjudication. You what? Order! Well, counsel, how does the defense respond? Mr. Naruhodo, what was the point of that last cross-examination? Did it actually get us anywhere? Or did it make no difference at all, like Lord Van Zieks is saying? I probably have to raise an objection here, I would imagine. I can't let things go. I object. I don't know what to, but I object. No, this isn't over. The defense will not rest. What? But counsel, you've successfully explained everything. You've identified and substantiated the unscrupulous method employed by Mr. Shamspeare to consume gas. What more is there to discuss? Lord Van Zieks just highlighted 3 facts in order to make his point. But contrary to what he would have the court believe, not all of them have been objectively established at all. What are you trying to say, my Nipponese friend? Well, for one thing, I want to know how what makes you say that he was poisoned by strychnine? There was no traces to be analyzed from the cup, you said. At least one of those so-called facts is an assumption made due to a lack of evidence. But the situation has changed now, following the cross-examination of the latest witnesses to take the stand. Don't be absurd. What is this nonsense? Did they perhaps draw the conclusion that it was strychnine? Because he said that the tea was super bitter, maybe? But that only relies on his testimony then. The liar and the fraud. Right? So, don't be absurd. What is this nonsense? Yes, when you bring everything we've learned so far together and consider it as a whole, it's clear. There's a question that we now need to reconsider, namely... Was the poison in the tea? Was there any poison at all? Is the kind of question that I want to ask. I'm gonna say... I think, yeah, I had just done so, but... This is the thing that's bugging me the most at the moment, anyway. We've all been led to believe that the strychnine poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspeare was in the tea brought to him by Mr. Natsume. But that's conjecture at best. The victim has testified that nothing else passed his lips that night. There is no other possibility. Could be lying. He's a liar. And since there was no trace of tea left at the scene, it couldn't be tested for traces of the poison. But we've just established that the guy is a liar. As I said, the situation has changed, because in fact, some of Mr. Natsume's tea was left at the scene, and a particular piece of evidence proves it. A ludicrous claim. Scotland Yard detectives investigated the scene exhaustively. Well, they're not very competent at their work. They're pretty incompetent on the whole. What evidence are you suggesting they missed? There was a little puddle on the table, as I recall, but it would have dried by now since the day before. Unless it's frozen, then that leaves us a chance. The defense has made a bold claim indeed. Very well, counsel. Present your proof. I don't even know where this is going. I don't know what he's talking about, but we're gonna find out. I never examined this thing, by the way. Who opened this envelope? Whoever opened this envelope didn't bother with a letter opener or scissors, did they? I never bother with those either. I make a mess of the envelope, I don't care. Yes, whoever opened it was clearly someone with an unrefined temperament. Well, I'll say, I'm deeply offended. And judging from the angle of the rip here, the person in question must have been right-handed. Mr. Sato, I think perhaps someone's been reading too much of the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. You can never read too much of it, Mr. Naruhodo, never. Second-hand book receipt. Armband. An evidence from the scene of the crime? Well, that can't be the cups. This is the teacup from which Mr. Natsume was drinking. Yes, unlike the other one, the inside of the cup is completely clean. I suppose he must have drunk the contents before the tea had a chance to leave a mark. I always gulp it down, too. Sorry, Mr. Naruhodo. Well, if you just sip it little by little, it goes cold. There are traces in one of the two cups, actually, now that I see it. Clearly, I shall have to instruct you in the proper way to take tea. There is no tea ring on the inside of the Mr. Natsume's cup. Ah, that's what they mean. Okay. What could it be that this is the thing? I'm not sure. What exactly is this piece of evidence supposed to reveal about Mr. Natsume's tea council? Well, I suspect it may possibly be related to the tea in some small way if we dig deep enough. Then you will be digging for a very long time indeed, my learned friend. Oh. Even at the bottom of the deepest chasm. You will find no sense in that absurd assertion. Okay, yeah, let's reload. That was not the right thing. Or the picture again. Sometimes I wish I could disappear down a deep chasm to escape... To what? To escape his deep sarcasm. Oh, good one. Good one. What is it about this tea? I don't know, let's try that. Okay, never mind, that's not it. What is it then? I must admit, for the first time I'm a bit stumped. No container for the poison was found on the scene. there aren't a ton of pieces of evidence that I can present anyway, so, the envelope. I feel stupid for not knowing what exactly I'm supposed to show here. Or maybe I'm not going in the right direction with asking about the poison. What, the soap? Okay, I'm getting a different reaction here, so that has to be it. Good gracious, the soap again? The same bar the victim used to fashion these coins of ice? Yes, that's right, my lord. It's just come back to me. Something about when we first found this bar of soap at the scene yesterday. It's more bars of soap. Soap? What are bars of soap doing lined up on a ledge outside the window? I'm quite certain that when we originally stumbled upon the bars of soap, there was actually a frozen coin in each bar. So you discovered the gas thief's coin factory. Fascinating. Is the strychnine in the soap, maybe? Like, would that be naturally inside the soap that British people were using at that time? Actually, I wonder. I just want to look up that. No, soap. Soap. I didn't spell it correctly. Strychnine soap? I don't know. Well, I find no evidence of my quick Google search that there would ever be naturally occurring strychnine in soap used during that time. In a way, yes, but there's more. The coins we found in the soap at the time weren't normal ice. There was something strange about them, you mean? Exactly, something very obviously strange. They were red. Is strychnine red? The ice was red? No, you mean... That's right, it's obvious to me now. The fake coins in the soap were made from frozen tea. Oh? What? I would remind the court of a statement made by Mr. Natsume earlier in this trial. That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never. He found it so bad that he decided to make coins out of it. He never drank it. Ah, yes, I believe there had been a snowfall that day. It was particularly cold. Sadly, on such occasions, the poorly constructed water mains in the East End are prone to freezing. Ah, so on the night in question, Mr. Shamspeare, having no running water to use, was forced to use the tea brought by Mr. Natsume in order to make his fake coins. Actually, I think they mentioned it before, that there had been frozen water pipes. I think that came up before yesterday. In yesterday's stream, I should say. There were 2 bars of soap on the window ledge when my judicial assistant and I investigated the scene. That's right, and we only borrowed one of them. Which means that even as we speak, some of the defendant's tea is still present at the scene of the crime, frozen solid in a bar of soap outside Mr. Shamspeare's window. Extraordinary! Earlier today, Inspector Gregson informed the court that even if 1 drop of the tea remained, Scotland Yard would be able to analyze it for poison. As such, we are now in a position to prove or disprove what has until now been a mere conjecture. Actually, that's part of the reason. For a brief moment I thought it may have been wax because it was red, but I never considered the fact that it could have been but that's why it disappeared in the first place then. It was reddish when we took it with us, but it melted since then. The tea. By finding out for sure whether or not Mr. Natsume's tea actually contained strychnine at all. Arg, you smug Nipponese. My lord, we cannot do the defendant the injustice of passing judgment now. The police should be dispatched to recover the remaining bar of soap from the scene at once. And the defense requests a thorough analysis of the frozen tea embedded in it to determine whether or not it contains any poison. Bailiff! Bailiff! Instruct the police to attend the scene at once. Yes, my lord, understood. This is gonna take some time. Would seem we have no choice but to suspend these proceedings for the time being. I trust you have no objection, Lord Van Zeeks? None, my lord. Scotland Yard will recover the tea from the scene and carry out the requisite tests immediately. The trial will resume at the same hour tomorrow. The prosecution and defense may conduct further investigations as appropriate in the interim. Yes, my lord. Well, we managed to scrape through there somehow. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned until tomorrow. Or until tomorrow? Is that what he said? To be continued. We're at the end of another section of the chapter, of the episode. Naruhodo's legal consultancy. Phew, we made it back in one piece. Just. To be perfectly honest, I thought we were finished there for a while. Oh, I know. What a lot of close shaves. There are so many carriages on the streets of London. You were very nearly flattened several times. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. Yes, I know. It was a marvelous defense, Naruhodo-san. It really was. I was in awe of you. Oh, thank you. And now that your fervent exploits have won us some more precious investigation time, let's see if we can't find some new clues for court tomorrow. Yes, let's do that. Is everything alright? Hold on a minute. Yeah, he said until tomorrow earlier. Is everything alright? I suppose I still can't quite believe it, that's all. That I'm here in England, working as a lawyer, I mean, in the Old Bailey, no less. The truth is, it shouldn't be me, should it? It should be him standing in my shoes. It should be Kazuma. It was Kazuma-sama's wish that you follow him to Great Britain and work alongside him. Yes, I mean, I never had the chance to ask him exactly why, but he clearly had a plan. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him. And you're doing wonderfully, Naruhodo-san. I've no doubt that Kazuma-sama would say exactly the same if he were here with us. Thank you, Susato-san. Thank you. I haven't examined this room yet, I think. Perhaps I should put this spade away somewhere. That's not a spade, Naruhodo-san. It's a shovel. No, shovels are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a spade. No, spades are for digging. That's for scooping up loose material. It's a shovel. Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? You're so right, Naruhodo-san. We mustn't quarrel over such trifles. On reflection, then, I think I'll leave the spade where it is. Yes, I think that's for the best. We may need a shovel when we're working in the garden. Still a shovel. Well, there's not much to look at the moment, so... I heard that there's another room behind that door. Yes, it's my bedroom, Naruhodo-san, as you well know. Shall I help you unpack your things? It's very kind, but no, thank you. Your luggage looked very heavy. Are you sure I can't help you move it? That's very kind, but really, no, thank you. A young maiden's private chamber is a place of bittersweet secrets, you know? The only secret I have is the 5-yen banknote hidden on the backside of my Daruma doll. These tanks are for keeping sea creatures. They are called aquariums, and they were all the rage in London at one time, apparently. Yes, the English are so clever coming up with the idea of having ocean life on display in the home. And it means you always have an emergency midnight feast on hand, too. I'm not sure that's really the idea. Okay, well, let's talk to her. Hold on. Okay, let's move on. It was quite a shock earlier today, wasn't it, when the victim himself turned up in court and took the stand. I know. Not only that, but then finding out that he is actually a bare-faced cast thief as well. Yes, that was certainly a surprise to us all. For a while, it seemed as though everyone had quite forgotten about Soseki-san poisoning the tea. Careful of your phrasing, Sasado-san. He didn't poison anything. And there is more to this Mr. Shamspear than we yet know. I'm sure of it. Mr. Shamspear certainly wasn't the noble, upstanding man everyone thought he was at first. What's become of him, actually? I was told he'd be returning to the hospital ward where he was receiving treatment. Oh, which one is that? Let me see. Ah, yes, he's at St. Bartholomew's, or Bart's as Londoners call it. We know that place, don't we? Yes, we visited Miss Green there yesterday. It's the same hospital to which she was taken. Ah yes, after Soseki-san stabbed her in the back. Do be careful of your phrasing, Naruhodo-san. He didn't stab anyone. Perhaps we both owe Soseki-san an apology. St. Bartholomew's. Yes, we should probably visit the hospital later. So we know that Soseki-san took tea to the victim on the night in question, but as he isn't the culprit, then obviously... Yes, the poison surely wasn't in the tea, but if that's the case... How on earth did the poison get into Mr. Shamspear's body? I'm sure we'll find a clue at the scene. There must be something in Mr. Shamspear's room that will help solve the mystery. Well, naturally, Scotland Yard's detectives have been over the place already, but it couldn't hurt for us to have another look around, I think. Definitely. And I'm desperate to know the outcome of the investigation into the tea left in the bar of soap. What if we run into Inspector Gregson? We could ask him about that. Kazuma Hasogi, the best friend I ever had, and a lawyer with such promise. He really saved my bacon in that horrible incident just before we left Japan. I can still picture him now, looking so fierce and determined in court. And then after the trial, that crazy idea he came up with. As a stowaway? Yes, you can fit inside my trunk if you curl up small enough, I'm sure. No one will know. Kazuma, won't you tell me why? Why go to these lengths so that I can accompany you to Great Britain? Well, it's been on my mind ever since we got through that trial that you really ought to go into law, but be a defense lawyer. You've got a natural talent for it, believe me. I guarantee it, but I've never even thought about becoming a lawyer. And now you're asking me to become one? Okay. Well, I can't force you, obviously, you'll have to decide for yourself. But anyway, London is the cultural capital of the world, the city at the forefront of everything. It can't hurt for you to see it with your own eyes. No, that's true. I suppose, though, if you were to become a lawyer, then one day... One day what? Oh, no. Never mind. Naruhodo-san? Oh, sorry, I was just thinking about Kazuma. Yes, he's forever in my thoughts, too, to change the Japanese judicial system for the better. That was his dream, and that's why he so desperately wanted to come to Great Britain to study, of course. Yes, that's right, but... Yes, I do wonder if his true intentions lay elsewhere sometimes. I don't know, the thought just takes hold of me every now and then, that's all. His name was on that list mentioned at the end of the first game, so... He had other motives. Naruhodo-san, what do you mean by Kazuma-sama's true intentions? I mean, this. Is katana? I never expected to inherit this sword after Kazuma passed away, of course. No, I know. It was because I asked you to take it. When I have it at my side in court, I feel as though it gives me courage. Actually, the night before he died, he told me a little about the sword. Karuma? That's right, it's a prized sword that's been passed down through generations of the Asogi clan. A Japanese man's sword is his soul, Ryunosuke. I can't be parted from my katana. Karuma guides me, I truly believe that. So its name compels its wielder to slice evil in two? Not that you would need much compelling. On that subject, there's something very important that I have to do in Great Britain. Something you have to do? Yes. I'd appreciate you seeing it through with me. Of course I will. Whatever it is, I'll see it through to the end with you, and he never got to say what it was. I knew you wouldn't let me down. What did he mean by something very important that I have to do? I had hoped that the answer to that question would become apparent when we arrived here, but... as yet I've not found a single clue. I see. Sholmes is sweet. Oh, Runo and Susie! Hooray, you're back! Hello, Iris. You're in fine spirits as always, I see. I am, and you look as immaculately presented as ever, Susie. Oh, you flatter me. Well, you couldn't have come at a better time. I've just made a pot of tea. I'll set some cups. Really? Thanks, Iris. But actually... what is that foul smell? Aha! The Wanderers return at last. Where on earth have the pair of you been? We've been in court? Oh, for Mr. Mustache's case. That was today, was it? I'm sure I mentioned it only yesterday, Mr. Sholmes. I'm sure you think you did. Well, we can laugh about it now. So tell me, how did the trial go? Reasonably well so far. We've managed to escape without a guilty verdict, at least. Really, I would have liked to see it. And I must pass the time of day with Mr. Reaper again. It's been too long. Is Lord Van Zeek's an acquaintance, Mr. Sholmes? Naturally. There is not a person in the world who doesn't know my name, Mr. Naruhodo. Not quite what I asked, but still. Mr. Sholmes. Whatever is that odor? Yes, what is it? It's faint, but absolutely awful. Ah, indeed, that's the scent of victory, my dear fellows. Victory in science. Oh dear. Alright, I'll bite. What's he up to now? Is he done creating his analytoscope for his analytoscope to analyze the results of the analysis? Or something? I'm not expecting to glean anything new from all this. Oh, wait. Hey, she's typing. Iris? That's incredible concentration, that is. I find it quite remarkable how she can focus on so many different things at once. Perhaps I should try drinking more herbal tea. The blend third from the right would be good for you, Runo. Oh, Iris? This girl is destined for great things, I'm sure. Lord Van Zieks. Lord Barak Van Zieks, yes, it's an interesting sobriquet he has, isn't it? The Reaper of the Bailey. Once the legendary prosecutor has fought for someone's conviction, that person is doomed. Even if he or she is found not guilty by the courts, sooner or later the hapless soul will vanish from the capital. But vanish how exactly? By falling under a passing carriage, or drowning in the Thames? Or succumbing to a sudden fever, or quite out of the blue being set upon by a highwayman? There are numerous routes to one's final terminus, my dear fellow. It all seems a little far-fetched, really. Well, on the bright side, Mr. Mustache is fighting fit, for the time being at least. It's not overly reassuring. If the rumors are true, though, the obvious conclusion would surely be that those acquitted are, well, by Lord Van Zieks' own hand. As it happens, Mrs. Sato, that is quite impossible. Oh? Why? Naturally, the man very quickly came under such suspicion. However, whenever these incidents occurred, the Reaper always had a cast-iron alibi. Really? And so his reign continued, but 5 years ago he vanished from the courts, never to appear as a prosecutor again.
That is until you arrived in the country, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes, so I've heard. In fact, it was the very day I arrived, when I was thrust into that trial at the Old Bailey. That bitter fight to the death coincided with the Reaper's resurrection, and really did end bitterly indeed. And here you are facing Mr. Reaper again. Poor Runo. I don't know if you're just incredibly unlucky, or incredibly unlikable. I think it goes deeper than just me. I sense a general loathing of all Japanese people. Okay, what's the foul smell? So what is that indescribably foul smell? Ah, well, most probably this, I would say. What is that? My dear fellow, it is of course my latest invention, a chemical test that can identify whether or not a tea is genuine at the drop of some tea. Oh my! There are some unscrupulous sorts manning the stalls along some of London's less frequented streets. They regularly sell what purports to be high-quality tea, but is in fact merely dyed leaves of drab flavor. Well, that's certainly unsavory behavior. So when one is presented with what appears to be black tea, one must be careful. Iris? At the ready, Hurley. This is gonna come into play in the investigation, I bet. Let us add a drop of my chemical to this cup of tea here. Do you see what happens? And I bet this form of investigative method, not being proven yet, will not have any value in court again. Like what happened at the end of the first game with the reagent for blood traces or something. Let us add a drop of my chemical to this cup of tea here. Do you see what happens? It's turned completely black. And what a foul odor it's giving off. Indeed, the blacker the tea becomes and the more foul the odor, the better the tea is. It would appear that this cup was a particularly fine Darjeeling. That's very ingenious, but what do you do with that black liquid now? Throw it away? Why, dispose of it, naturally. Surely you wouldn't like to drink it, would you? There does seem to be a rather obvious problem with your new invention, Mr. Sholmes. It wastes perfectly good tea. Hence why this chemical test is merely a test, my dear madam. Right. The point is we are entering a new era of science, in the world of criminal investigation also. Yes, forensic science. Oh, these are such exciting times. I regularly engage in this scientific experimentation alongside my unofficial consulting detective work. The Sherlock Holmes method will be the foundation upon which modern investigative technique is based. This little tea indicant was a happy byproduct of my ongoing forensic science research. Forensic science? I suppose I should find out more about that. We'll go back to Japanese people after that. So your tea test, is that an example of forensic science? Indeed it is. An essential tool in cases that hinge on the knowledge of whether some tea is of high or inferior quality. Not a huge number of cases then. Perhaps a more practical example is required. Fingerprints? Not yet accepted in our courts as evidence, I might add. Really, we are dragging our heels there. I hadn't even heard of them until recently. Which is partly why I undertake research in this field myself, of course. Does that mean you're studying fingerprints, Mr. Sholmes? There are others in that field already, and I abhor the company of inferior minds. Now, what I am researching is skin prints. Skin prints. A nomenclature of my own design, as is this chemical agent that makes it possible. It instantly reveals objects touched by whichever person is under investigation. Brilliant, Mr. Sholmes, as long as it doesn't turn everything completely odorous and black. I assure you, my dear fellows, you will witness my forensic talents in action very soon indeed. Okay, what is it between Lord Van Deeks and Japanese people? With Mr. Natsume, who I'm currently defending, being Japanese as well as Mr. Sato and myself, I felt it even more keenly in court today. For some reason, Lord Van Deeks seems to have an inherent disdain for the Japanese. Indeed, it is an interesting observation. Do you know something about it? Do you, Mr. Sholmes? It was about 10 years ago that Barak Van Zeeks chose to enter the legal profession. However, before that time, the young man's closest companion hailed from the Empire of Japan. No! What the? Tell us more, Mr. Sholmes. What happened? I believe I've made it clear before. I'm unable to tell you anything about the affair. Oh, but... So it's got something to do with that affair? The veil will be lifted on the events of the past in due course, I have no doubt. For now, however, it is Mr. Mustache who is most deserving of your attention, I believe. Mr. Mustache. Well, I think we should go back to the scene and see if we can uncover any new clues. That's the spirit, Runo. See you later. Yes, until later. I like that they both do the same thing. Same gesture. No, Mr. Sholmes, we were thinking you'd come with us. You were? Yes, of course. You said so just a moment ago. You said we'd witness your forensic talents in action. Ah, yes, I do recall saying something along those lines. That was literally 30 minutes ago, bro. But you go on ahead. I shall be sure to follow you later. In all likelihood. Probably. Maybe. Well, I might. Your commitment astounds me. Oh, thank you, Mr. Sholmes. We'll eagerly await your arrival. Bye-bye, Runo. Bye, Susie. St. Bartholomew's Hospital Recovery Ward. What do you suppose is happening? It sounds like some sort of disturbance. Yes, I hear angry voices. Be not angry, O ample lady. Verily thou art mistaken. Mistaken my foot. You were looking at my painting. The eye of man hath not heard. The ear of man hath not seen. 'Twas foul indeed, the poison that mustached villain giveth me. Forgive me, lady. I wish that you died from that poison. God a mercy, ample lady. But thou seest, I have vigor still. Behold, my Shakespeare dance. This looks rather ominous, doesn't it? Hello, this the lawyer from the land whence riseth the sun. How now? What are you doing here, Mr. Shamspear? Mary, I do believe I am returned unto another ward. He was looking, that's what he was doing, looking at my terrible work. Eastern fellow, so darkly clad. Faith, thy work in court this morning was wonderful, I do applaud thee. Oh, well, thank you, we just, sullied your good name, but, but, that doesn't mean things will go so wonderfully for you tomorrow, does it? Damn. Bends it and straightens it back up like it was nothing. And anon exeunt. Is that Latin? That sounded like third person plural for exiting, maybe? I'm not sure. Exeunt. I'm not sure. Mr. Shamspear might technically be the victim in this case, but there's definitely a lot more to it than that. It's very hard to pin the man down. I'm so sorry, I'm such an awful person. Miss Green, is everything alright? Oh, yes, I mean, don't worry about me. They're about to discharge me, so I must get ready to leave now. Oh, I see. We're delighted that you'll soon be well enough to go home, Miss Green. Oh dear, you're too kind. I don't deserve it. Damn, she always looks so down.
Well, I already looked at all that.
So are you feeling more like yourself today, Miss Green? I am, thank you. I mean, people do recover from ordeals like this, don't they? Even people like me. Well, yes, it really was an ordeal, wasn't it? As far as I was concerned, I was just walking along in the snow one evening, minding my own business, and then completely out of the blue, I was struck in the back by a knife and collapsed unconscious for days. Of course, when I finally woke up again yesterday, the whole business had been cleared up already. What a terrible week it's been for you. Oh no, I'm sure I'm very lucky, really. I'll look back on this fondly. Really? Anyway, I must be getting my things together now, so I'm ready to be discharged. Oh yes, of course. Sorry to take up your time when you're obviously busy. Briar Road, the Garrideb's room, prison. Or perhaps we should have a look at Mr. Shamspear's room again. Mr. Natsume's lodgings, ground floor. Oh, hello again, Inspector Gregson. What are you doing here? Well, we were hoping to have another look around, actually. The lawyer representing the defendant has a right to examine the scene, as I'm sure you're aware. Yeah, I know the score. Oh, yes, one other thing. The soap on the ledge outside the window. Did you find it? With the tea in it? Yeah, we found it alright, and there was a small amount of tea in it, as you said. I knew it. It's with the identification section of the yard now. They're looking into it. The results should be available later today. That's wonderful news, thank you. Pretty impressive performance in court this morning. Sorry? Nothing, forget it. Just make sure you don't disturb anything in here. Look at him, the moron. He's still here. What was that? Look at these extravagant, bright costumes. Somehow they look out of place in this room with its grim, shady goings-on. This one looks like a king's attire. A king. I've always dreamt of being a king. We've already had that yesterday. The sun never shines in this room thanks to that depressing bricked-up window. Yet with enough determination, you can always remove the bricks to set some soap outside, can't you? That sounds like a very wise life lesson, Mr. Sato. Only if you plan to follow a life of crime, Mr. Naruhodo. If you ran out of change, you wouldn't even have any light, let alone heat. For the needy, London's winters can be very harsh. That's true, but if you think about it, even the wealthy would find themselves freezing if they ran out of small change. London's winters can be very harsh for the forgetful too, then. Frankly, I'm starting to wonder if Susato-san and I are going to make it to spring. That's true, we don't even have a meter at Baker Street, let alone a gas stove. Look how dark the stain on the floor is underneath the meter there. Yes, from all the water dripping out after the ice coins melted as you established in court this morning. It's a very large and obvious stain, isn't it? Mr. Shakespeare must have used an awful lot of ice coins, I suppose. It was an ingenious idea, I'll give him that. Yeah, that's what I said myself too, actually. I mean, that was wrong for him to do that, but it was actually a pretty impressive idea. Nah, I already got that. I couldn't see the little tick next to it at first. Ah, the ill-fated teacups from which the two men drank on the ill-fated night. During their heated literary debate, yes. Who's stronger, Romeo or Juliet? It sounds like it was quite a discussion. Now I think of it, I'm sure that the two lovers in the play ended their lives with poison. That's fiction, Mrs. Sato. Let's hope it stays that way. So it turns out that Mr. Shakespeare wasn't eating the soap at all. That's right, the mystery of why he had it on the plate whilst holding a fork in his hand is solved. He has to prise his latest ice coin out of its mold. And in the process, he accidentally broke the bar of soap in two. It certainly was hard to imagine, let alone deduce.
Alright, Sholmes. What are you up to over there?
What a question indeed. Was it not your good self who asked me to attend the scene? Oi! What are you doing here, Sholmes? What are you up to over there? What are you doing here? Dear me, once a great detective, once a great detective, one is always under scrutiny, it seems. Okay, yeah, I couldn't wrap my head around the sentence at first. Is now the time, Mr. Sholmes? Are you about to show us your forensic talents in action as you promised? With the greatest of pleasure, my dear madam. What's all this? All this is precisely what you requested, Mr. Naruhodo. Herlock Sholmes' sensational skin print seeker gun. Moments ago, I took a sample from the teacup that was used by the victim. A sample from Mr. Shakespeare's cup. Each individual leaves microscopic secretions on everything he or she touches. A sample of those secretions is all I need to produce this, a refined indicator solution. By liberally spraying the room with this chemical, everything the victim touched is instantly revealed with the aid of these goggles. Here, try them on.
There, now spray the chemical indicator about and all will be revealed.
Spray? How do I do that exactly? A little press of A on the area you're interested in is all that's required, like this. What is that stuff? It's like fog, a suspension of the chemical indicator in a pressurized gas. It's the most efficient way to cover a large area. That was another invention I discovered incidentally whilst I was developing this idea. As you do. Go ahead, try it, my dear fellow. We may learn something interesting about the victim's movements on the night in question. Well, there's nothing to lose, I suppose. Let's explore. His prints are on both cups. Look, there are dozens of handprints there. So there are, a great many indeed, so much so that it's hard to make out any one individual print, in fact. Brr, it sends a chill down my spine. Perhaps he was leaning against the wall while he admired this picture, or perhaps there's something behind it, is what I would imagine. And likely, I would say, it's a rather dull scene after all, and without wishing to state the obvious, you wouldn't generally admire a picture from such close quarters, I feel. Oh, very true, Mrs. Sato. It's a bit of a mystery then. Well, I guess this was the main thing that I was supposed to notice. Well, can't I back out? Oh, look at all this here. Ah yes, interesting. A multitude of the victim's handprints. Why are there so many of them on the floor in this one spot? Oh, perhaps he had a bad fall just here. There's nothing obvious that he would have tripped over, though, is there? I wonder. Personally, I often stumble when there's nothing obvious to trip over. I think that's something only a great detective would do, Mr. Sholmes. Well, this is quite a puzzle. Handprints all over the floor. Yes, there's no obvious explanation. Well, we sprayed Mr. Sholmes' amazing skin print indicator all over this room, didn't we? This is not valid evidence in court. Yeah, wait for it. It's gonna happen. I feel so drowsy. Excuse me. I'll suck on something to keep the juices flowing. Alright. Even if my throat is not particularly sore at the moment, yet. If that keeps me awake. We did, but there are two places in particular that are of interest, I would say. This one floorboard, yeah. And on the wall by the picture, you mean, yeah. I think the floor warrants closer investigation. I won't be a moment. Ah! What is it, Mrs. Sato? Look here, Mr. Naruhodo. One of the floorboards has popped out. One of the... You mean it's a secret hiding place? Excellent work, Mr. Sato. So what do we have in here? Oi, what are you lot doing? Inspector Gregson! Stand aside right this minute. It's my job to investigate there. No need, Inspector. You continue to dig into your portion of chips whilst we dig around under the floor here. Your fancy talk's putting me off my food anyway, Sholmes. A new bit of evidence is exactly what I need. Wow, a secret hiding place under the floor. What a find. It's not a hiding place you could make use of in Japan. I don't think I could lift a straw tatami mat. No, I know, but I never expected one of these wooden floorboards to move either. It got me wondering about the wall over there too. Aren't you curious? Oh, I'd investigate at once. Ah, there's nothing behind the picture, sadly, only the wall. How disappointing. But then, how do you explain the handprints? I really can't think why anyone would have been touching the wall over and over in one place like that. What was that? There you are, a print for you. The photograph of the handprints on the wall has been entered into the court record. Oh, thank you very much. His invention can make prints too? Now then, I wonder if Inspector Gregson has found anything under the floor there. I'm desperate to know. So am I. No. Not move. So? Greg Z? I'd love to know if there's anything hidden underneath that floorboard there. Allow me to ask Gregson now. After all, we're well acquainted. Inspector Gregson, really? It's been too long. What is it, Sholmes? I thought perhaps you might show me what you found there, seeing as we're such good friends. We're not friends. No, I suppose not. Ouch! That hurts. A dismal failure! Yes, I heard. I'd kill to know what was under that floorboard. You know who he reminds me of? Sherlock Holmes. He reminds me of that Japanese comedian, Leisa Ramon Sumitani, otherwise known as Hard Gay. I mean, he's always over the top when he speaks and waving his arms around like that. He has kind of the same gestures when he talks. He reminds me of that. Because this is the kind of thing that he would say, you know, super huge failure, woo, and waving his arms around like that. Yes, I heard. I'd kill to know what was under that floorboard. All right then, fair's fair. What? You did discover the hiding place after all. I suppose I should at least fill you in. Really, Inspector? Thank you. Do it quickly, my dear fellow. Yeah, but hold your horses there. Nothing proves that this is gonna be good for us. That may be incriminating for our client. So, if there's one thing I know about this man, it's that he blows with the wind, as fickle as the weather. Oi, stop making me out to be some kind of nut. There were 3 items on the floor there. A newspaper clipping, a photographic print, and a tin box. Now, what do you want to know? All of it, really. Looks like this was cut out of the paper about 3 months ago. It's about a convict who got sick and died while he was serving time up in Manchester. How terrible. It made the headlines down here in London as well. The bloke had been sentenced to death, you see, but nature got him first. Oh my goodness, he'd committed a capital offense? Man by the name of Selden, nasty piece of work, into burglaries and murder. They say the hoard he'd knocked off was worth about £1,000. A hoard? Of treasure, you mean? Jewelry and the like, but he'd hidden it somewhere and no one knows where. And now he's dead. Papers loved it, of course. £1,000 lost en route to hell. Or some such was the headline. Does it not strike you, though, why such an article would be so carefully ensconced under the floor? I suppose now that you mention it, it does seem a bit odd. Perhaps I'll go over the paperwork we've got on Selden back at the yard and see if I can turn anything up. Mm-hmm. Condemned criminal dies of natural causes in prison. Manchester's Strange Ways prison announced the death of convicted murderer and burglar Selden by natural causes in the early hours of this morning. He had been suffering with fever since the end of October. Alerted by the shouts of his fellow cellmate, medical staff arrived to find him already dead before his capital punishment could be carried out. Who was his cellmate? Was it Shamspeare? So this is the photograph I found. Looks reasonably recent to me. Yes, it would appear to have been taken on the street in front of the house here. And the gentleman on the left is Mr. Garrett, the landlord, of course. The young man on the right resembles the one that we saw in Mrs. Green's ward at the hospital, no? Can't remember if it was a painting or if it was a picture. He also has the paint brushes and paper or something. Who's the young man on the right? Mr. Garrett's son, perhaps? Perhaps you can take that print if you like. Really? Are you sure? We can presume, therefore, that the yard already knows. The identity of the young fellow, that is. Ah, is that true? Well, it's too bad if we do. Unfortunately for you lot, leaking information isn't one of my pastimes. My dear Inspector, if I may be so bold as to point something out. Pastimes are for one's leisure, but this is for work. All the more reason I'm not telling you. A dismal failure. Yes, I heard. The hidden photograph has been entered into the court record, okay? I wonder why a photograph like this was hidden under the floor. Well, maybe it was already there before the guy lived in this room, because if they had the whole house for themselves, the Garrett Ebbs, I mean, if that was their family house and they decided to rent some of the rooms to make money, the owner could have put it there or something. I mean, Mr. Shamspeare himself isn't in it. Photographic prints are still rare treasures in the East End. I imagine Mr. Garrett was rather delighted to have been immortalized. It probably made a proud present of it. Now, this tin box looks interesting, doesn't it? Might I suggest, Inspector, that you open it? If you were to find something inside that reveals the truth behind this case, I wouldn't be in the least surprised. Yeah, funnily enough, I've already had a look. Cabea? It's a tin of what? Oh, it's completely empty, you say? What? Shamspeare, give us a clue, man! You didn't even have the chance to utter a word, Mr. Naruhodo. But anyway, at least we found out what's inside the box. Yes, thin air, it's empty, rather like how I feel inside. Is there nothing more to this box then, I wonder? Sorry. Let me have it then. Is that the cat from the first game? Oh, look, it's that lovely little kitty cat. What was its name? It's Mr. Natsume's, isn't it? I don't think we ever asked him, actually. Why don't we call it, Wagahai? You know, like Mr. Natsume refers to himself in Japanese. I wonder how he got in here, clever cat. Oh, wonderful. Well then, Wagahai, here's something delicious I bought for you from the cat's meat man. He couldn't be happier now. Look, I just hope we can bring some happiness to his owner too. Did we get the tin in the end? No, we didn't. Why did the cat come from back there? Is there something hidden behind it? Yeah, okay, yeah, with that we already had yesterday, so no need to read it. That was a cheeky little meow guy. Oh, but he's so adorable. I could sit and watch him forever. I think he may not appreciate that after a while, and we have an investigation to get back to. Or I guess we could move. I want to show him the picture so he can tell me something about it. Mr. Garrett appears to be out. Oh well, I suppose we'll just have to come back again later. Tough luck. Let's try the streets, I guess. Jitensha. Nothing of interest, it looks like. I'll go back to Mr. Gary Debs after this. 2nd February, local prison cell 9. Or actually, I could show the picture to Miss Green if she's still in the hospital. Oh, Mr. Natsume is back. So he is. Mr. Natsume, hello. I am a cat. Sorry? I don't know who Mr. Natsume is, or Sherlock Holmes. I don't know about courts or trials or old Baileys. I am a cat. That's what I am, just a cat. Mr. Naruhodo is trying to escape from reality. Trying to? He already has, completely. So, what is your name then? As yet, I have no name. Mr. Naruhodo, he hasn't fully thought out his new identity yet. Maybe it's not too late to bring him back to reality. Do you think you can open your eyes for us, Mr. Natsume? I am not a cat. It worked! He's back in the real world! What's going to become of me? No! Don't answer that! It's obvious! My accursed soul is never going to escape this accursed fate. Mr. Natsume, no, this morning's proceedings in court prove that there is hope. Yes, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire was brilliant, but the Reaper is omnipresent in court and my lodgings. Here, there, everywhere. What's he looking straight at me for?
I think perhaps there are some things we should discuss.
Oh, yes, we must. Yeah, do you know something about this? Mr. Natsume, it's nothing much, but it's been too long since I've been offered a present with that delightfully humble etiquette of our homeland. What? You're too kind. I accept it gladly. Sorry, but I wasn't trying to give it to you, actually. Oh. What about that? Know anything about it? What's this? It's a newspaper cutting that we found in Mr. Shamspeare's room. Ah, so he knew, did he? Sorry? About this man, Selden. Ah? A convicted killer, and the evil spirit behind the curse that afflicts my lodgings. Wait, what? What? He's already taken one young man's life, and now he's trying to take the life of another. A miserable, mustached, much maligned Japanese man. Mr. Natsume, if you know something, please, you must tell us. Tell us everything you can about this evil spirit. Huh. I was just wondering if that would do anything, if I would show it to him, and I didn't really expect to get any new dialogue opening for showing him that. In my whole life, have I ever been so moved as I was today? No! Of course, if I cast my mind back, there were perhaps one or two other occasions that moved me more. But if I just blocked those out, then today, being in that courtroom was... It was the most moving experience of my life, student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire! You're too kind. Scotland Yard found the remaining tea, just had to with deduced, and are analyzing it as we speak. There's nothing wrong with that tea. They won't find a drop of poison in it. That's a solemn sworn Soseki certainty. Tell me, did you both drink the tea at the same time that night? Oh yes, most definitely. Remember, drink tea while it's hot. We both poured it down our throats like it was a hot bath for our bellies. And at the time, you were both completely fine, as shown by the fact that he and Mr. Shamspeare then engaged in the Romeo and Juliet match. I suppose the focus of tomorrow's proceedings will be how the poison was taken by the victim then. That Rodham Shamspeare. What have I ever done to him? You don't recall him taking issue with you over anything you've done recently? Like beating him up in your Juliet costume? I've been holed up in my room, immersed in my books. I don't recall anything at all. Right. But what I don't understand is why you didn't let me know sooner. Let you know what, Mr. Natsume? About the soap, of course. What else? Oh dear, are you struggling with such a meager stipend? Of course I am, if I had money. I wouldn't have chosen to live an accursed existence in such accursed lodgings. Oh yes, you said it's because the place is cursed that it's so cheap, didn't you? Exactly, especially the room that I rent. The spirit of that capital offender who lived there still owns the place and it's trying to kill me. Capital offender? Might I ask, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, that the next time you visit me, you bring scores of super soft soaps. Okay, so I guess if I hadn't shown him the picture first, I would have gotten the hint here that I was supposed to do so. The truth is, I didn't know the details myself until very recently. That Selden man was arrested about a year ago now, and at the time he was hiding out in lodgings at Mr. Garrett's house. What? He lived where you do now? That's right. Yes, exactly where I live now, in my very room. Oh my, your room was previously occupied by a criminal found guilty of a capital offense? But before his sentence could be carried out, he died in prison. That was 3 months ago now. And that's when it started. The curse. What really is this curse you keep mentioning, Mr. Natsume? It's already caused one death. A few months after the criminal passed away in prison, a man died in the room. The man who rented it after Selden, in fact. The poor lodger, he was found dead in mysterious circumstances. The room was locked from the inside. Locked from the inside? Exactly like the case we're dealing with now. So that's the convict's curse, is it? Yes, well, that was the start of it. Do you have any idea how the lodger before you passed away, Mr. Natsume? The official cause of death was asphyxia. When they discovered the body, the room was full of gas. Gas? I only found that out after I'd signed the lease. When Mr. Garrett came to tell me later, I couldn't stop myself trembling. In fact, if I had known beforehand, I would probably have been too scared to take the room. Landlord's lease, luckily legal! Lucky for Mr. Garrett maybe, but not so lucky for poor Mr. Natsume. And now you believe this curse is affecting you? It is, it is! At first, I just felt as though I was being watched, all the time. And then you talked about having nightmares, didn't you? The dead are trying to take me with them. They come for me and try to suffocate me. Just when I'm struggling to breathe, I wake up. And the room is as cold as ice. But why is your room so cold? London winters are too cold to bear without any heating on overnight, but for some reason, even though I light the stove before I climb into bed at night, the pilot light always goes out and the room fills with gas. But that's terrible. That's exactly the same situation as what led to the previous occupant's death. And then there's what happened to Mr. Shamspear last night when he was mysteriously poisoned. There's clearly more to that incident that can be explained by a curse, though. Time to visit Mr. Garrett, I think. Whatever can be the cause of all these strange happenings in Mr. Garrett's rooms. I want to go back to her room, see if I can show her the... maybe I can't. Yeah, probably not. Yeah, this is the same dialogue as before. Where did I see that picture then? Was it this one? Look, there's a photograph in this frame here. It's the same guy. Oh yes, it's a picture of a young gentleman. He looks to be about the same age... What? The same age as Miss Green, I would say. Perhaps the young woman's special someone, do you think? My, Mr. Naruhodo, I didn't know you had a sense for matters of the heart. Not in the least. I sincerely said the first thing I thought of. They won't draw the comparison themselves. Ah, well. Tell me he's here now. There he is. Mr. Crescent Moon. Ah, you're here now, Mr. Garrideb. Right, bally business it is for me, you know, getting out and about. Were you at the Old Bailey by any chance? Naturally, fate of my lodgings hanging in the balance and all that. Not a trial to miss. The fate of what's already been dubbed your haunted lodgings, yes. Of course, the place has caused quite a stir around the capital on more than one occasion already. As the old haunted lodgings or some such. Ah, well, at least he knows. Makes you wonder what the blazes is going on, don't you know? Yes, I'm sure it does. Ah, Sholmes, what are you doing here? In fact, thinking back to Mr. Natsume's other trial just 2 days ago. You were at the Old Bailey then as well, weren't you? Testifying with your wife about what happened. Stopped off at the prison on the way home, in fact. Beastly business. I see. So, what brings you to my haunted abode today, eh? Well, first... Who's this guy? Tell me. Mr. Garrett, could I ask you to look at this photograph? Is that your son who's with you there? No, not at all. He was a lodger here once. Duncan Ross was his name. Duncan Ross? A street photographer happened to be passing, so I asked him to take a shot, just for kicks, really. Was he by any chance the lodger before Mr. Natsume? Yes, that's right. Ah, the young gentleman who died in the room in mysterious circumstances. Just what Mr. Mustache was waiting for, one might say. Yes, young Duncan lived in the room at the top of the first flight of stairs before that Japanese chap. Would you mind telling us a little more about him? Okay, he's not gonna react to this, I think. Mr. Garrett, could I show you this? Been quite a couple of days, as you can imagine. I'm afraid I'm rather tired. I haven't really got the energy in the old eyeballs, to be honest with you. Some other time, then. No, okay, same answer. Ah, an ultimate gas meter, yes. Decent fireplace in here, of course, so no need for a gas stove. But there's nothing better than a gas lamp for reading in bed, eh? Actually, Mr. Natsume mentioned that the gas supply to his room kept failing. Ah, yes, that. I had the gas company look into it, but they couldn't find a thing wrong. The chap must have been imagining things. Don't think he was imagining it. The poor man woke up unable to breathe. Think it was put down to ghosts at work or some such at the end. Place must be haunted. Seems pretty nervous about it. Okay, let's talk to him. Some fishy fellow from the Far East and a failed actor chap of questionable character, eh? Yes, the house does seem to have become something of a magnet for rump fellows of late. Thanks to that bally curse. The convict's curse, you mean? Ah, heard the stories, have you? Rotten scoundrel was arrested here, then the next chap in the room goes and kills over. Then there was that woman who dropped dead just outside on the street, not to mention the actor yesterday. And my next day? Well, can't help but get the collywobbles, can you? When you say the woman who dropped dead outside on the street, do you mean Miss Green? Because Miss Green, who was stabbed by the knife... Because Miss Green, who was stabbed by the knife, and Mr. Shamspear, who was poisoned last night, are both very much alive still. Yes, well, so is that blasted convict's curse, it seems. Personally, I should be quite content with such lodgings. A bath, a toilet, a fireplace, a fascinating history. Why? It sounds like the lap of luxury. I'm not so sure about that. Well, there's no bath or toilet included, and no fireplace either. But you do look out for your tenants, don't you? By watching the rise and fall of the flames in your gas lamps up here. I think he's more worried about someone else dying of gas poisoning, maybe, or something like that. Yes, never hurts to keep an eye on things, in case there are any mishaps or such like. I think you've had your mishap already, sir. Ha 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 ha. That's not helpful, Mr. Sholmes. Heaven forgive me, the words just came to my lips.
Wait a minute.
Is that the same thing I already asked about? Some fishy fellow from the Far East and a failed actor, chap of questionable character, eh? There's no need for that, Mr. Garrideb. That's right, Mr. Natsume is in no way fishy. He is undeniably peculiar, however. Is it right that he took the vacancy immediately after the previous tenants passed away? He didn't know. He only learned after he had already accepted. Yep, that's right. I asked the estate agent to find someone and he popped up the very same day. Never come across a chap so keen for a place with a background, as it were. I don't think it was the room's background he was keen on so much as the cheap rent, actually. So, how long has Mr. Shamspear been lodging under your roof? That failed actor chap? Let me see. Oh, of course. Yes, it's been 3 months now. Quite sure of it. Only 3 months? He's quite new here too, then. And to what do you owe your certainty in that regard, Mr. Garrett, if I might ask? Well, it was that Selden scoundrel, as it happens. Selden? The convict, you mean? Do Selden and Shamspear have some kind of connection, then? That convict chap, Selden, passed away in the clink 3 months ago now, you see. Some malady or other. Yes, we've seen the report from the newspaper at the time. Well, it was only 3 days later that the tragedian showed his face. The actor fellow, really? Yes, I remember it quite distinctly. This world we inhabit, pray the landlord, hear my request. I, the humble Shamspear, do desire to take thy room on the middle floor, offered here a while for rent. I'm terribly sorry and whatnot, but that won't be possible. Already have a lodger on the middle floor. Ground floor room is vacant, though. Nothing can be made out of nothing. Let me repeat mine will unto thee. Those curls must be muffling your ears. The room on the middle floor is taken. It's ground floor or nothing. Very well, we have an accord. Glad to hear it. Welcome to Briar Road. Lo, a Shamspear dance to celebrate. Goldilocks. From what I heard in court today, sounds like the chap was thieving gas. And he was 3 months in arrears with the rent, too. Yes, the fellow was a bully player, all right. Thank you for your candor, Mr. Garrett. We are most grateful. By way of appreciation, allow me to say 1 or 2 words. Give me my robe, put on my crown. I have immortal longings in me. What's happened to you? Shakespeare, my dear fellow, one of his most famous lines. I wish to divulge my own learning of the subject, for I have a turn for literature too, you know. Perhaps you could turn your attention to more apt lines then? Yes, Duncan Ross. Young chap was attending art school, had to work to pay for it, mind. Moved into the middle floor room about a year ago after that criminal Selden was arrested. Young students are always on the hunt for rooms with a history behind them. A history of cheap rent, maybe, yes. Yes, well, anyway, it was one morning about a month ago now. You know, if the guy was so keen on trying to get the room on the middle floor, and he couldn't get his changed for the one on the first floor after the previous tenant died, and Natsume just jumped on the occasion and got it. That would explain why maybe he's trying to get Mr. Natsume to go to prison. He sort of faked his own death, maybe? But obviously, he was not intending to stay dead, but he was going for attempted murder anyway. To get him out of the way so he could try to get the room there. Maybe it holds a secret. Like some treasure or some such that the previous criminal hid in the room, maybe? I don't know. Yes, well, anyway, it was one morning about a month ago now. Hadn't quite worked out the old trick of watching the gas lamps to see what my lodgers are up to at the time. So sadly, I was rather tardy to discover what had happened. Smell of gas that alerted me it was. Ah yes, synonymous with the smell of death. Called the police straight away, of course, and the officer kicked the door off its hinges. But once we got inside, we all barely collapsed. Because of the gas? Yes, room was full of it, no air at all. Stove must have gone out while the poor chap was sleeping in his bed. So Mr. Ross suffocated to death. Of course the police gave me a sound ticking off because the gas pipes were so old and all that. Can't tell you how much it set me back to have the lot replaced all over the house. But even after you had all that work done, Mr. Natsume says the same thing, that the stove goes out at night whilst he's asleep in bed. Well, that's the bully curse, the convict's curse. I've done my duty as a landlord now. Someone's feeling defensive. Ah, that reminds me, actually. Yes? About young Duncan, the night before the poor chap perished. He'd been writing a letter of affection to a young lady. A love letter, you mean? Yes, where did I put it now? Ah, here it is. Left it on my desk. if you'll excuse me. Let me see now. What does it say? To my most beautiful and charming sweetheart. Do you think that we should be reading such a personal piece of correspondence? My dear Mrs. Sato, that is precisely why I prefaced my reading with, if you'll excuse me. I will not excuse you, Mr. Sholmes, no. Sadly, it didn't address it, though, so I have no means of delivering the thing. Rather sad, really. I see. That's going to play on my mind. But I know already who it should go to, probably. But really, the identity of Mr. Ross's sweetheart has no bearing on the case. I think we should leave well alone. Yes, I suppose you're right. Indeed, the intended recipient's address is missing. However, there is a name attributed to the man's most beautiful and charming sweetheart. Mr. Sholmes, please, I've already had to chastise you about this once. My undying love to you, my colorful darling, Olive Green. Huh? Olive Green? The woman who was plunged into a coma after a knife plunged into her back outside this house 5 days ago? The victim of the last case Soseki-san was in court for, who regained consciousness only yesterday. Is it just chance that her name has come up now? Could it possibly be a mere coincidence? Mr. Naruhodo, whatever can this mean? Reading personal correspondence can have its merits, you see, Mr. Sato.
Alright, we should move.
Well, her bag is still here, so she mustn't have left yet. Mr. Naruhodo, I've just finished speaking with the doctor. It seems Miss Green is well enough to be discharged at last. This is good news, but hopefully just before she leaves. What is it? Miss Green! What was that? She clearly just hit something behind her back. One moment, I'll be with you in a jiffy. Oh, hello everyone. What are you all doing here? The doctor has said I can be discharged, so I'm just getting my things together. Miss Green, what were you just doing? Oh, nothing really. I was just about to take some medicine the doctor prescribed for me, that's all. Well, we were hoping to have another quick chat with you if that's alright. I don't really have anything else to tell you. Alright, she's definitely behaving strangely. Let's see if we can coax something out of her. But first... This is the card that Miss Green was looking at so intently before, isn't it? Mr. Naruhodo, we shouldn't be peeking at a young woman's private effects. Right, I should save peeking for gentlemen's effects only. You mustn't do that either, and maybe you, Mr. Sato, shouldn't be peeking into a young man's mind either, hmm? This is the bottle that Miss Green was just about to drink from when we arrived. Yes, she looked rather preoccupied, didn't she? Perhaps it's very bitter. I can't stand bitter medicine. I suppose that could be it. In fact, whenever a doctor prescribes me medicine for a number of days, I always take it all at once. Oh no! Well, if you have to take something you don't like, it's best to get it all out of the way in one go, isn't it? Oh dear, and I thought it was Miss Green I should be worrying about at the moment. Down in one, awarded? What was that? Miss Green, we were hoping to ask you about someone, Mr. Duncan Ross. You knew him, didn't you? Uh-oh. Oh no, I'm so sorry. The bottle of medicine fell down when she did. Oh, Miss Green, are you alright? I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to startle you like that. No, it's alright. I just wasn't expecting it. But how do you know about Duncan? Mr. Ross had been writing a letter when he passed away. The landlord found it in his room. It was a very personal letter to you. It was at the art school. That's where I met Duncan, a year ago now. He was working to fund his studies. He dreamt of becoming a professional artist one day. And the two of you became romantically involved? Yes, that's right. We were very much in love. We were engaged to be married, actually. That's why he decided to move into a cheaper room to save money for the wedding. And that's what led him to Mr. Garrideb's. Yes, he told me he'd found the worst but cheapest room in the entire East End. And then, 1 month ago, that's when it happened. We're so terribly sorry, Miss Green. Well, it's all in the past now, I suppose. Poor Miss Green. She looks desperately sad. I was starting to think that's just her look. But now I see that she has every reason to feel the universe is against her. Do we have the letter? It's not in the inventory. The bottle fell off before when Miss Green collapsed. That was quite an earthquake. Whatever was in the bottle, honey maybe, or treacle, or syrup, or all three mixed together even. Mr. Naruhodo, you've been having a lot of very mean thoughts during this exchange. I'm disappointed in you. Sorry. Mr. Duncan Ross, who would ever have thought he was engaged to be married to Miss Green? To lose one's beloved fiancée must be painful enough, but then Miss Green suffered that awful injury, and outside her fiancé's former lodgings too. Fate can be very cruel sometimes. Alright, let's talk. It's wonderful news that you're going to be discharged, Miss Green. Oh yes, I mean, thank you. Once people are better, the hospital staff don't want them lingering and wasting space, not people like me anyway. So I don't think I should keep anyone waiting. I probably shouldn't stand around and chat. She certainly doesn't seem to be in the mood to talk, that's for sure. I do hope you won't think I'm being rude, but... Would you mind leaving me in peace now? I have to leave the hospital soon. Oh, I'm so sorry. We didn't mean to hold you up. Of course, we'll be on our way. Mr. Naruhodo! Surely you were not about to leave? That's quite out of the question. Whoa, Mr. Sholmes, I didn't realize you were here. But of course I was, my dear fellow, watching intently from the shadows as always. Well, make your presence known next time. Hey, the rat died in the background, drinking the thing from the bottle. Look. Well, I guess it would be kind of hard to see for you guys. Mr. Sholmes, what's this about? Something which occurs to me with some regularity, Mr. Sato, is this. Why do detectives insist on such an ex post facto modus operandi? Why solve a case after it's happened, instead of preventing a case before it happens? That is what sets a great detective apart. What do you mean? There is a case waiting to happen under our very noses, Mr. Naruhodo. So let us avert disaster. Let us prevent this case from ever happening with nothing but careful observation. Alright. All the clues you need are set before you. You need only look, and you cannot fail to see. You can do it, Mr. Naruhodo. I know you can. That mouse seems to be dead. Look, I didn't notice it there before, did you? I think perhaps it drank the medicine that spilled out of the bottle. It's poison! But that's... the bottle that Miss Green was about to drink from when we arrived. You don't think? Ah, I see you've come to appreciate the true nature of the scene. That of a tragedy about to take place. Yes, I think it's falling into place. Miss Green, the contents of the bottle you had before has spilled out on the floor, and the poor mouse that drank it has sadly died. I think it's clear that the bottle must have contained a powerful poison. Don't worry, I will attend to the mouse presently. Miss Green, were you intending to go the same way as that rodent? To take your own life? Ah, once we'd left, you would have put it in your lips again, to your lips again, wouldn't you, and taken the poison. No! Miss Green, please talk to us. It definitely feels as though this card must be relevant. I mean, when we first arrived, Miss Green was standing with it in her hand in what can only be described as a very tense atmosphere. It's a suicide letter. Maybe. Suicide note. May very well be related to whatever incident Mr. Sholmes believes was about to happen here. Perhaps we should ask Miss Green about it. 10 seconds later and we would have arrived at a very different scene here. In all probability, we would not have enjoyed this most delightful conversation. Of course, perhaps it hasn't been quite so delightful from your perspective, Miss Green. Actually, in a way, now that everything's out in the open, I feel like a weight has been lifted. Tell me, how did you acquire that medicine? Well, with this being a hospital and all, when the doctor comes to examine me in the mornings, he always leaves the medicine cabinet open for a while, so I snuck this out when he wasn't looking. It conspicuously lacks a label. I wonder what it contains. What's happening with my stream there? Okay, we're back to not dropping frames. I'm afraid I don't really know, but I thought if I drank it, it might just stop the pain somehow. You look like Leonosuke. Hi, Panda. How's it going? Oh, please, Miss Green, don't talk of such things. Well, it seems clear now that it contains poison. Yes, that poor little mouse is proof of that. Oh, no. Oh, it's all my fault. What have I done? I shall remove this to my office, Miss Green. I take it you have no objection? Good, good, and getting your hair cut soon? Ah. What you going for? A mullet? Surely not. No, none. Neither the sender's name or address appear to be written on the envelope of the card. It arrived by post at my home the day before the incident that put me in hospital here. I have information regarding the death of Duncan Ross. Come to the Slug and Salad on Briar Road at 5 p.m. on the 17th. Don't tell anybody else about this letter or the meeting. It is a matter of utmost importance. It looks like the bit of envelope that I have matches the envelope from that letter. I tried the mullet a few months ago. Wasn't as good as I thought it was, going for a high fade. Ah, yeah, okay. Going for a high fade this time. Wait a minute, the 17th of this month? That's the day you were stabbed on Briar Road. And 5 p.m. is precisely the time when the incident occurred. So someone did try to kill her then. Maybe. Not everything was as it seemed. The Slug and Salad, yes, a pub on the northern corner of Prior Road. Prior Road being the street that Mr. Garridup's house is on. Does this mean that... Yes, I'm sure you've guessed. That day, when I was struck in the back by the knife, I was actually on my way to the Slug and Salad. Goodness! So that's what you were doing on Briar Road that day. I'm sorry I didn't say anything before. I think I really will have to ask you to excuse me now. I've told you everything. Yes, I'm very sorry to have had to drag up such painful memories for you. No, it's fine. Miss Green, please, promise us you won't try to do anything like that again. Yes, don't worry. Your detective friend has the bottle now anyway. And besides, I've been stabbed in the back and had a close shave with a bottle of poison, and I'm still here. I think I'm destined to see things through to the end. It might sound a little conceited, but well, that's how all this has made me feel. Leaving Miss Green and St. Bartholomew's behind, we made our way back to Baker Street with Mr. Sholmes. Well, it would appear that we've reached the end of the investigative trail for today. Yes, it's late. And Mr. Naruhodo, did you discover anything that may be of use to you in court tomorrow, do you think? Details about Mr. Shamspear, Mr. Garridub's lodgings, the convict Selden. There are many facets to this case, and we're yet to see to the heart of it, if you ask me. Yeah, actually, those last... but actually, I didn't get any new evidence from talking to her. That's my feeling, anyway. Can't help wondering about the results of the analysis. Into Mr. Natsume's tea, you mean? Yes, will they have found strychnine in it or not? Well, I fear that either way, it will be hard to escape the grip of our friend, Mr. Reaper. Oh dear. Yes, Barak Van Zeeks. But I wish you every success, of course. And though I was late to rise this morning, tomorrow will be a new dawn. I intend to spring from my bed at the crisp hour and attend the trial. Mr. Sholmes, you're going to come? Indeed. Whatever happens, I shall be there, assuming my eyelids cooperate in the morning. Well, I think we've done all we can. All that's left is to remain focused and keep fighting for Mr. Natsume's cause until the very end. London, the world's most prosperous city, home to some 6 million people. But away from the razzle-dazzle, down back alleys and behind bricked-up windows, the lonely lurk. Soseki-san had battled long and hard with loneliness during his many months here, and so I felt honor-bound to battle equally hard for my compatriot, to lift the curse that gripped him. As Mr. Sholmes said, tomorrow would be a new dawn for all of us. To be continued. Come on. Okay. Ooh, extreme close-up. This is it then, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, it's time to put an end to this now. To the miserable curse that has been plaguing Mr. Natsume, to everything. And in my own small way, I shall do everything I can to help you. I always appreciate your help, Mr. Sato. Suffering, Soseki, selfishly, sidelined. Ah, good morning to you too, Mr. Natsume. Good morning! Good morning, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Listen to you two chatting away happily as if the main player of today's trial isn't here. Why would you do that? Why? Oh dear, we didn't mean to cause offense, Mr. Natsume. Thought perhaps that because you had your eyes shut so tightly you were meditating, finding inner calm. It seems wrong to disturb you. I was waiting! What's the matter, Mr. Natsume? You seem different somehow today. Why, naturally, that's because I've attained spiritual enlightenment. The path of literature, you see, is a journey to discover one's own death. Or such like. That's the sort of morning conversation I was hoping for. That's why I had my eyes shut. I missed the signs, I'm afraid, somehow. You'll have to forgive me. And you mustn't talk of your path leading you to death, Mr. Natsume. That was just an example. Oh yes, there it is, inner calm. You barely came to see me at all yesterday. I was sure you'd abandoned me and returned to our beautiful long-lost homeland. We've not even been in Great Britain a week yet. Yes, well, anyway, I intend to set everything straight in court today. I'm determined to uncover the truth. I've actually reached an important decision myself. Oh, what sort of decision? I shall fill you in after the trial. Alright. It would seem Mr. Sholmes isn't coming today after all. It's a very clever message, I think. My dear fellows, you must win this battle on your own merits. It's a very clear message, I think, that he's overslept again. The great detective, my arch nemesis. Long may he stay away, if you ask me. Defendant and your legal representative. The trial is about to begin. Make your way into the courtroom immediately. Today, once again, we face the Reaper, and when the Reaper stands for the prosecution, the defendant's fate is sealed. But I don't believe in that legend any more than I believe in Soseki-san's curse. The truth is hidden here somewhere, and I won't let it escape me. I have to keep believing in my client and keep fighting to the very end, that's all. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. Yes, the defense is ready. Very good. And now I call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury, chosen by a lot to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to proceed? Absolutely. Justice will be done. Mark my words. I feel obliged to say I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat is sitting just right. Oh, well, I wonder if you could adjust my hat for me, and please be as ruthless as you like. Thieves deserve to die if you ask me, especially gas thieves. I have no sympathy for the man at all. Look, I said it yesterday and I'll say it again now. I don't have time for this. I've got my own problems. Oh, may the Lord show us all the light here and lead his flock to a righteous verdict again today. Now, Lord Van Zieks, what can you tell us? The prosecution's report, please, for the court, in relation to the theory expounded by the defense yesterday regarding the defendant's tea. So he does have the results.
Before the prosecution delivers the black news about the black tea belonging to the blackguard in the dock, pray allow me a moment to savor a liquid of a more sanguine hue. In fact, I'll defer to the good detective for the report. Here's to you, Inspector. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. As indicated by the defense, we found a bar of soap just outside the victim's window in the snow, and there was indeed a frozen reddish liquid in a little depression on the top of it. Yes, that's the tea. That's what Mr. Natsume brought with him that night. Well, the brains at the yard analyzed it, and yes, you're right, it was tea. And there wasn't a trace of strychnine or any other toxic substance in it. No poison at all? In other words, the tea that the defendant brought with him to the victim's room is innocent. It's in the clear. Yeah, the tea is innocent, but not the accused. What a revelation! As I suspected. This makes it quite clear. The defendant, Mr. Soseki Natsume, is blameless here. My learned friend is jumping to conclusions again. A typical Nipponese reaction. What? Yes, it's true, no poison was found in the few drops of liquid recovered from the soap on the window ledge. But what logic is that? Would you take a drop from the Thames and conclude that the water in the ocean isn't salty? My word, the water in the ocean is extremely salty, Counsel. Exactly, unfit for drinking, just as the victim's tea was on the night in question, as the court has already heard. Bitter was the precise word from the lips of Mr. William Shamspeare, whom the prosecution now calls back to the stand. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's request. Mr. Shamspeare. Yes, it sounds like we're going to have another confrontation with our theatrical friend. Bailiff, show Mr. Shamspeare to the stand. Mr. William Shamspeare, the victim of this despicable crime. Oh heaven, oh hell, do you command me to remember? Forsooth, 'twas I, Shamspear, did have a belly full of the foul fluid given in mine innocence. Yes, but as was revealed in yesterday's proceedings, the witness is not as innocent as you had perhaps first been led to believe. As we had first been left to believe, sorry. By using bars of soap such as this, he has been stealing gas from the supply company, yes. One may smile and be a villain. Forsooth, 'twas I, Shamspear, did have a room full of the sweet fuel given. That's right, fellow jurors, don't forget, this man is a rotten thief. I haven't forgotten, kept all that about the ice coins a tidy secret, didn't you? You should have owned up sooner. Arrest him, I say! Arrest him at once, and let him feel the sting in my tail. Oh, indeed, by dint of vile and cowardly means have I plotted to further my unknown ends, I confess. Thou wouldst not pardon my sins, of that I am sure. Thanks for the follow, Gamer God. If you acknowledge your wrongdoing, what exactly are you doing here? Cowards die many times before their death, and for a coward such as I, death be well deserved. Would it that a still greater crime passeth unpunished? For lo, the hairy-faced gentleman of farther east and Verona did contrive to poison me. But there was no poison in the tea found in your room. The police have attested to that. What the defense would assert as an inconsistency will clearly be cleared up by the witness's testimony. Is that not so, Mr. Shamspear? He's gonna lie again. Verily, my liege, I would most gladly speak. Very well, let the witness testify to explain this inconsistency. Tell the court why it is that poison apparently entered your body though none was found in the tea. The Japanese man did come to my chamber with tea brewed in a pot. 'Twas in my cup alone that the wicked miscreant secretly poured his wicked poison. Whilst feigning distraction in our debate, ne'er did a drop of his own drink pass his lips. That's a lie. When he departed by and by, I did use the tea that remained in his cup to make my coins of ice. I think I only have to present the cups because I think, yeah, there is no tea ring on the inside of Mr. Natsume's cup. Yeah. So that already proves that he's lying right there. When he departed by and by, I did use the tea that remained in his cup to make my coins of ice. Thus, 'tis no surprise that poison may not be found in the tea I did pour into his mold of soap. The poison was slipped into the cup after the tea had been poured. The normal way for poison to be administered in my experience. Quite, otherwise it would be disastrous if the poisoner were to mix up the cups, for instance. But no poison bottle was found at the scene, because quite simply, the Nipponese took the bottle back to his own room. The absence of a vessel containing the poison only becomes problematic when considering suicide. I knew that. By now it should be perfectly clear. A bar or two of cheap soap is wholly insufficient to wash deep stains of guilt from the accused's hands. Sirs, madams, 'tis true that I, Shamspear, be a common thief of gas. But, listen here, ladies and gentlemen. Wherefore would I lie? Verily, I have no cause, I have naught to lose. Well, I do declare. Thank you for your testimony, witness. Counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Because I already examined the cups before, I think it's pretty obvious that he's lying there. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, there. Objection on that already. You claim that Mr. Natsume didn't drink a drop of tea on the night in question? But that's impossible. How? Chop logic? What is this, ye dark key-clad fiend? Sorry, fiend. The 2 teacups from the scene, one used by the victim and the other by the defendant, have a clear difference between them. One that represents incontrovertible proof. Incontrovertible? What difference? Look at the inside of the cups just here. There is a clearly visible ring. Yes, a tea ring. Commonplace enough. Indeed, such stains occur all too readily when one leaves tea in the cup for a while. And yet, Mr. Natsume's cup has no such ring. Good lord, you're right. It's completely clean. And prithee, sir, what makes though of it? He drank his tea immediately. He didn't let it cool. Exactly what Mr. Natsume told the court yesterday. The Japanese saying he quoted. Drink tea while it's hot. That's right. Yes, the jittery Mr. Natsume was true to his usual self that night and drank his tea in no time. Huh? If, as you claim in your testimony, he didn't touch a drop of his tea, a ring would have developed on the inside of his cup as well, after the several hours the tea was left standing. But, in short, Mr. Shamspear, you clearly lied to the court. Get thee to a what? Get to what? To a nunnery? What was that? What did he say? As a rule, I fill my hallowed chalice up to 7 times during any one trial. Get thee to a nunnery? I don't know what that means. Or get out of here, or something. I don't know. Or come off it. You might want to keep that information to yourself. Yet on occasion, tedium distracts me and I pour more times than I intended until the bottle is dry. Your drinking habits are fascinating but irrelevant. On the contrary, they illustrate the fickleness of human memory. To William Shamspear. Yes, my liege. Though you previously stated that you made the coins of eyes from the leftover tea in the accused's cup, could it be that you were perhaps mistaken? Could it be that, yes, perhaps there was some tea remaining in the small teapot left at the scene? A fact that had vanished from your memory until now. Faith, my liege, thou art a magician. For verily, 'tis as though thou hast seen with thy own eyes that night. What? Forsooth, I was mistook. I did plan to use tea from the Japanese fellow's cup, but lo, when I looked, 'twas empty. And thus did I use the dregs that festered in the teapot, as my liege did suggest. And thus did I use the dregs that festered in the teapot, as my liege did suggest. Huh? And you've just suddenly remembered now that you made a mistake before. Are we supposed to believe that? People's memories are imperfect, my learned friend, which is why we rely on evidence instead. But in any case, it makes no difference. The victim's most recent testimony tells us 2 things of note. Firstly, that the poison was put into the victim's teacup only, and secondly, that the spoiled cup was not the source of the insipid ice coins that have bewitched this court. The prosecution makes a fine summary of the facts. Furthermore, that testimony remains valid and in full support of the established facts. In other words, the inconsistency claimed by the defense simply does not exist. No! What does this mean, then? I do declare it means there's no issue with the gas thief's testimony. Apart from the bit about thieving gas, obviously. My lords, ladies, and gentlemen of the jury, I do solemnly swear, after I did dine at Grubb's Grubbery Alehouse that night, naught did pass my lips, but the back tea given me by the Japanese, whose back be stooped as low as death. And on what did you dine, sir? Why, I did partake of my favorites, a broth as would be called soup, and a leaf as would be called salad. As insalubrious a menu as the establishment where it was served. But you gods will give us some faults to make us men, Willingly will I suffer what punishment is seen fit to serve a wicked thief of gas, but I pray you wise and noble fellows never forget the simple truth. That be one thing and this be another. Jurors all, your humble servant Shamspear doth entreat you, punish the Japanese fellow for his sins. My lord! If I may speak, my lord. Yes, Mr. Foreman? I believe we may have been duped by that rotten defense lawyer. By me? I do declare you may be right. We all know the waif there was making coins of ice to keep himself warm. But this lawyer lad says if he's stealing gas, he deserves a dose of poison, eh? He's been leading us up the garden path, that's what he's been doing. I really never said anything like that. But what we just heard from the victim there has opened our eyes again. We've reached a decision this time, and we won't be swayed from it. Yeah, do notice that whenever they reach a decision, it's always about the defendant being guilty. Never about being not guilty. The court acknowledges the position of the jury foreman and will duly hear the jury's findings. What? No! You can't yet! Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will state your decisions now. Well, we all know what it's gonna be.
有罪
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 有罪有罪
I hereby declare the jury to be in one accord. Oh, happy day. How is this happening? My lord, the defense asserts its right to carry out a summation examination. Very well, the court upholds the defense's right. Typical. My learned friend is unable to accept the obvious truth. This trial will therefore enter its second summation examination immediately. Jurors, the court calls upon each of you to state the grounds upon which you find the defendant guilty of the crime of which he is charged. The jurors' contentions. I'm a man of logic, me, and having considered all the evidence, the defendant must logically be guilty. I do agree that gas is far too expensive. I can quite understand why the man would want to avoid paying. The stuff explodes and it can poison you. It's absolutely lethal, gas is. Gas doesn't come for free. It costs a fortune to deliver it around the city and maintain the pipes. Truth be told, the tea my wife serves up for me is a little sketchy at times. If nothing else passed the victim's lips that night, there's no other explanation, is there? I do feel that perhaps personal opinion about gas and its supply has influenced decisions somewhat. But never mind. No, you really should mind. The truth is, our counter-argument wasn't as unassailable as we'd hoped. And Mr. Shamspear was poisoned, there can be no doubt of that. Then how are we supposed to turn this around? I think we need to establish the method by which Mr. Shamspear was actually poisoned. Our only hope is to demonstrate that to the court incontrovertibly. Hold on. But that's surely almost impossible at this stage. If we don't manage it though, Mr. Natsume will be found guilty. No delays, counsel. Proceed with the summation examination. Objection! What would you rate this game so far? Oh, a solid 8 out of 10, I'd say. I think one of its shortcomings perhaps is that it doesn't have quite as many different characters as I would want. I mean, you often see the same jurors. It's always the same prosecutor so far, never any change. I mean, the two anyway, one for Japan and one for England. There was more variety in previous games, I think. But otherwise, they're good. I'm a man of logic, me, and having considered all the evidence, the defendant must logically be guilty. I do agree that gas is far too expensive. I can quite understand why the man would want to avoid paying. Yeah, hold on. I wanted to press here. Well, I kinda like Van Zeek's. Susato is also quite good, and Herlock Sholmes, obviously, yeah. He's the highlight of these two games. Can we please refrain from all this talk of gas? There's an all-out attack underway here, in case you hadn't noticed, against my company's gas. And I'm supposed to sit here and take it, am I? I don't think so. She's really buzzing now. All I've heard about our wonderful fuel is explosions and poisonings. What about electricity, What about getting electrocuted? What about that? A little explosion here and there is nothing in comparison. Any explosion could hardly be described as nothing, madam. Nevertheless, the theft of your gas is deplorable. My point exactly, but the gas thieves aren't even the worst of our enemies. We have far more devious reprobates to contend with on a daily basis, you know? More devious? Who, madam? Other gas companies, of course. Other gas companies? Not quite what I was expecting. We generate gas and we deliver it to our customers fair and square. Indeed, nobody is questioning that, madam. Ultimate is an exemplary gas company. But there are other unscrupulous gas companies here in London that don't even have any gas at all. What? But if they don't have any gas, how do they go about selling it to people? You wouldn't think it possible, would you? But they steal our gas, you see, and sell that. They steal your gas? How on earth is such a thing possible? They divert it from the pipes, I guess. Gas companies like ours deliver gas to people's homes via a network of pipes, but these devious reprobates secretly disconnect our pipes and divert our gas into their own rotten pipes. Yeah, how else? How else would they do it? Then they make a contract with the household supplied by those pipes and take money for the precious gas that's rightfully ours without us even knowing. They're diverting gas into their own pipes illegally? What a brazen form of theft. When we visit customers' houses to collect the money from their meters, we always have to check whether or not one of these devious companies has been up to its tricks. Do you have something to say about that, juror number 3? Oh golly, you mean me? I'm terribly sorry, I was just thinking to myself. I really did catch him off guard there. Thinking about what the lady next to you was saying, correct? Well, yes. I just got a little riled about it recently, you see. Go on. An ultimate gas worker visited my house the other day to investigate the pipe work. We need to ask for your cooperation while we carry out a secret check of your property, sir, the fellow said. So I let him in, and do you know what he did? I'm afraid I have no idea. Please tell us. He proceeded to take one of my lights off the wall. Then he grabbed the exposed mouth of the pipe and started blowing into it. What do you think you're doing, young man? You're giving away company secrets there. Oh, please, everybody knows, but it was very nearly the death of me, I can tell you. What do you mean? I'll explain if you don't mind. As I said before, these unscrupulous other gas companies connect their customers to our pipe network. Yes, but how does blowing into the pipes come into it? Obviously there's gas in the pipes and it's at a fairly low pressure. By blowing air through the pipe you can make the pressure drop temporarily. And if you do that, any lights connected to the same pipe will flicker for a moment. Ah, I see. In other words, if upon blowing into the pipe the lights of an adjacent property that has no contract with your company flicker, you can know that these devious scoundrels have been meddling with the pipes. Exactly, my lord. That's it in a nutshell. It's the reason why we have teams of workers going around neighborhoods to investigate which lights flicker. The trouble is, the particular worker who came to my house didn't know the strength of his own breath. He blew down the pipe with all his might, and you can guess what happened, can't you? Well, if he blew hard, then... Wait, you mean... That's right, the lights didn't just flicker, they went out, along with the stove. Gas started pouring into the house. What a disaster. The gas supply must have been interrupted briefly because the man blew too hard, so the flames went out. I'm afraid I yelled at the fellow. Are you trying to kill us all? I said. So by disconnecting a lamp and blowing into the exposed gas pipe, it's possible to extinguish lamps and stoves connected to the same network of pipes. And then when the gas starts flowing again, it just silently seeps into the room. That may be how, what was his name again? That other young lad? That may be how he died? Yeah, Duncan Ross, yeah. Yeah, that may be how he was poisoned by gas. If someone on a different floor in the house, like say the floor where that jester guy was staying, if he blew into the pipe, he could have done it on purpose. Maybe he knew about it even. Mr. Naruhodo, I think perhaps, yes, this is almost certainly the clue that we've been hoping for. Juror number 3, the defense requests that you amend your statement to include that information. If you like, I don't mind. Well, I do! That's our company's secret method of identifying the rogues that try to swindle us. What did she say? Diddle us? Oh, okay. Like I said, madam, it's widely known already. Very well, juror number 3, you will amend your statement accordingly. Yes, my lord, although I'm not really sure what the point of all this is. Blow too hard into a gas pipe and you extinguish everything in the house and then you're in real trouble. Truth be told, the tea my wife serves up for me is a little sketchy at times. I should probably press on that. You mean it's poisoned? That's right, it's happened a tidy few times now. This is most troubling indeed. It's always days like this one when I don't get any wages. I get in at tea time, see. And I see her doing it, my wife. She gets that devilish look on her face. And she slips some white powder into my cup. And you drink it anyway? I was brought up proper, I was. If someone gives you a cuppa, you drink it. And what happened to you? What did it taste like? It was god-awful, believe you me. Salty as hell. Well, then she put salt into it. Then I think perhaps what your wife put in your tea was simply salt, yeah. No, so she doesn't even care enough to poison me properly, eh? Unbelievable. Let's move on, please. What if it was gas? I've suspected from the start that it might not have been strychnine. Those two statements clearly contradict each other. I'm not sure that they do, but let's see where this is going. Good gracious, to whose statements do you refer, counsel? Juror number 6, did you hear what juror number 3 just said? What? Yes, of course. I heard him mumbling about something or other. There is another explanation here, I believe. Something besides Mr. Natsume's tea did, in a manner of speaking, pass the victim's lips on the night in question. What explanation? I wonder, did the police check the mouth of the gas pipe feeding the wall light at the scene to see if there were any traces of poison there? I was curious to see what your floundering would result in this time, but the mouth of gas pipe? Scotland Yard have enough to do without exploring such irrelevance. What a piece of work is a man. What are you trying to say, Mr. Shamspear? What speakest thou? Prithee, is it not strange and strange? That is what I say to thee, sir. Van Zieks looks good, yeah. The Reaper of the Old Bailey. I thought I'd been quite clear, but let me put it another way. The strychnine could have been on the mouth of the gas pipe that feeds the wall lamp in your room. And that is how the poison came to enter your body. Good lord. Are they tasty then, gas pipes? Is that what he's saying? Or is the gentleman suggesting that the poor man was so desperately hungry he tried to fill his belly with gas? Perhaps no actress would perform a kiss scene with him. For shame, madam, speaking thy fancy. I assure you I'm not such a buffoon that I have to kiss pipes. This is no summation examination. This is a farce. The prosecution will not stand for any more of my learned Nipponese friend's conjecture. To begin with, the lamp in the victim's room is high on the wall. In order to have placed his lips to the pipe that feeds it, he would have to be a contortionist. These are empty assertions. There is no possible proof that the man did as you say. There's no proof to the contrary either. It's true I have no proof that Mr. Shamspeare put his lips to the pipe. However, I can say with some certainty that on multiple occasions, Mr. Shamspeare has been doing something in front of that lamp on his wall. Oh yeah, you're gonna see him breaking glasses and breaking a few bottles over the course of the trial. He's been doing that for a while, yeah. His chalice, as he says, as he calls it. Mr. Shamspeare has been doing something in front of that lamp on his wall. And I have evidence to prove it. Alright, you've got our attention, lad. I'd like to see how you can be so sure of yourself. So would I. Let's see this evidence then. Now that I've got the jury's ear, I need to make this opportunity count. This is the proof that time and time again Mr. Shamspeare stood in front of his gas lamp. The picture, this one. What the? These are, wait, what are they called? Yes, skin prints that were found at the scene. Skin prints, counsel? I've never heard of such things. The Justice Ministry is currently assessing whether or not to permit fingerprints as evidence in court, however. My lord, this is an exciting new forensic technique developed by the great detective Mr. Sherlock Holmes. They may say again, well, this can't be accepted into court as evidence then because it's not been a proven, a reliable way to collect evidence or something. It reveals all of the places that Mr. Shamspeare touched in his room. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, that's black magic, isn't it? Well, if anyone could invent something like this, it's that great Holmes fellow, that's for sure. I agree. This month's edition of Engineering Thumbs was quite fascinating. We found skin prints in many places that you would expect, on the table, on the costumes. However, Mr. Shamspeare also appears to have been touching some very unexpected places in his room. For example, here, around the hanging picture there, indeed, multiple handprints appear to be visible. Well, I wonder, could he have been appreciating the hard work, perhaps? They could have made Sherlock Holmes a woman. Yeah, they could have, I guess. At first, my colleagues and I thought the same. However, imagine standing with your hands where those prints are, and you would find yourself directly in front of, I don't believe it. The gas lamp. Yeah, I mean, in the TV show Elementary, they made Watson a woman, so why not Sherlock Holmes or Sherlock Holmes, I guess, for once? Why not the gas lamp? Though the reason why isn't immediately obvious, it's clear that Mr. Shamspeare has regularly been standing with his hands to the wall in front of that lamp. Right, what have you been up to, you nut? I'd asked the court to recall juror number 4's earlier statement. Me? What did I say? You said that blowing into a gas pipe would make the lights in the entire building flicker, and now if you'll recall juror number 3's statement. What, me now? When the gas worker who visited his home blew with too much force into the pipe, it caused all the lights in the gas stove to go out, and gas start leaking into the rooms. Obviously that incident was an accident, however the simple fact is, if Mr. Shamspeare were to have blown hard into the gas pipe here in his room, he could have extinguished every other light and gas stove in the building at will. Crikey! Are you suggesting that the man purposefully caused the gas to... He wants the room upstairs. I'm not sure why yet, but he wants it. Whilst I acknowledge that the prosecution is required to remain silent during the summation examination, I must toast my learned friend's utter disregard for the letter of the law. What is the meaning of this, Lord Van Zeeks? This curious photograph or whatever it is presented by the defense, the so-called skin prints, clearly that cannot be accepted as any form of usable evidence in this case. But it's an exciting new forensic technique developed by a great detective. It's nothing. I knew he would say that. Because he always does that. Anything that Sherlock Holmes invents, it always gets rejected by this guy. It's nothing. A mere toy developed by an amateur sleuth with too much time on his hands. Certainly even research of this nature by the esteemed Mr. Sholmes cannot be recognized by the court as formal evidence. But... Please, my lord, if I may, Mr. Sato, it was not the defense's intention to submit the skin prints as formal evidence. We merely wished to present the results of the great detective's investigation of the scene, as a tool by which to explain the possibility to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. And if the trial were to come to an end now, we should never learn the truth behind these mysterious handprints that everyone has now seen. I don't believe we can allow that to happen, and I'm sure the jurors would agree. Well played, Susato. You're right. Whether those strange handprints are a significant clue or not, it's down to us to decide. Juror number 3. Oh yes, I do declare the great detective's investigation results sound absolutely fascinating. And I want to hear what that shady actor fellow has to say about those shady handprints. That's not enough to tip the balance the other way towards not guilty, but that's progress. What's the matter with you two? That was foolhardy. Well, I did say it, didn't I? And I don't like to break a promise. No, wait! You heard his lordship. It's not fair dinkum or something. Well, we're halfway there now. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. If just one more juror changes his or her mind, Mr. Natsume's trial will have to continue. Thank you, Mr. Sato, but I couldn't have done it without you. Oh no, it was you who identified the clue after all. This is very much your success. Sweating bullets now. Why, Mr. Shamspear, you seem to be losing your composure. Just one more juror, Mr. Naruhodo. You can do it! Very well. Continue, counsel. Okay, where shall we press now? That was good progress. Well, I don't have to put these together. Gas doesn't come for free. It costs a fortune to deliver it around the city and maintain the pipes. Well, let me press the first one, because I haven't done so yet. All the evidence, you say? That's right, and there's no room for doubt. It's all pointing at that Japanese man with the big mustache. Says the Englishman with the bigger mustache. But the defense just demonstrated another possible explanation for the events on the night in question. Ganbatte, Ryunosuke! What do you make of that? What, your so-called skin prints? It's an exciting new forensic investigation technique developed by the great detective himself. The numerous handprints on the wall are clearly out of the ordinary. And if Mr. Shamspear had intended to indeed put his mouth to the gas pipe on the night in question, it can't be denied that there's a possibility that's where the poison was. Well, yes, I won't deny that it's playing on my mind. But as the prosecution rightly says, we should pay no heed to unacceptable forms of evidence. And besides... Yes, even if the fellow has been up to some mischief with the gas pipe dozens of times before, it doesn't mean he got up to the same shenanigans on the night in question, does it? Nah. If you can't make your case better than that, I'm afraid I can't change my stance. You do make a very valid point, sir. What? That's true. Perhaps I was a little hasty. Hey, no, wait. Look, you've got your chance here, haven't you? So it's time to prove your theory. If you and your Japanese cohorts can, that is. Just leave our nationality out of this, please. Mr. Naruhodo, if we can't substantiate our position, I'm afraid the jurors that changed their minds before may very well change them back. What can I do? Is there any more proof I can give here? Can I show that Mr. Shamspear really did blow down the gas pipe on the night in question? Can I? Supporting testimony? Do I? Do I have that? I don't think I can. I just saved, so no, in truth, I don't have evidence to support my theory. However, there is witness testimony that substantiates it. What's that? Testimony? This is incredible. Whose testimony? Yes, it's all connected. Everything is linked. A person whose testimony revealed details about the gas in the Garrett residence that night, namely, what it would have to be either the defendant or John Garrett himself. No? Him? Well, Mr. Foreman, does that convince you? No, apparently that's not the right pick. Who? I don't think he was listening. Rest assured, counsel, I shan't let such nonsensical answers go without penalty. Okay, well, let me try that again then. The defendant, I think he did mention something like that happening on the night in question. Hold on. Obviously, I'm talking about the defendants. Yeah, because he did mention it at one point, I think. Mr. Soseki Natsume himself. The defendant? Yeah, but would his testimony hold much weight, though? Because he could be lying to protect himself if he was really guilty. At the very beginning of the proceedings here in court yesterday, Mr. Natsume said the following. My lodgings! There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings. Even on that fateful night it happened, when I returned from Mr. Shamspear's room. Sorry, I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long the stove went out. And somebody tried to kill me! Yeah, well I guess, yeah, he did say that, yeah, well, if he says so. On the night in question, the gas in the defendant's room went out. So I asked the court, was that a mere coincidence or not? Good golly! Good golly, Miss Molly. So that Shamspear fellow blew air into the gas pipe to make the man's stove go out on purpose? Now hold your horses there. What would he do that for? To kill him because he wants his room. Mr. Foreman? What is it, man? We cannot allow judgment to be passed whilst this doubt remains. It's true that I don't have conclusive evidence yet. However, you must surely agree there is more to this case than meets the eye. Fair enough. Like I said at the outset, I am a man of logic first and foremost. Yeah, it's tipping toward not guilty. Leaning towards not guilty, sorry. That's 4 jurors leaning towards not guilty, my lord. We've overturned the decision. Therefore, the defense calls for the trial to continue. As the defense has rightfully indicated, the summation examination has concluded with a majority of jurors altering their decisions. 2 jury members now called guilty, 4 now called not guilty. Therefore, the jury's opinion is conflicted, and in accordance with the law of this land, I hereby order the continuation of this trial. Mr. William Shamspear! My lord, how can thy humble Shamspear serve thee? What say you in response to the various revelations made during the summation examination? So God mend me, I do solemnly swear I recall aught of either the lamp or the pipe. But your handprints have made a tidy mess all over the wall there. How'd you explain that, eh? I am done with this. The dignity of this great courtroom has been sullied enough already. Juror number 5. Who, me? As I went to some pains to point out already, a print from the self-professed detective's toy has no place in the British court of law. As such, whether or not this man did indeed stand before the gas lamp with his hands against the wall remains, at this time, an established conjecture. You would all do well to remember that. But the prosecution must concede that it would be extremely simple to verify. Just order the mouth of the gas pipe feeding that lamp in Mr. Shakespeare's room to be examined. If there are traces of poison there. What appears to be extremely simple is my Nipponese friend's mind. You will recall that in order to check for the presence of poison in the tea, some remnants of tea were required. Therefore, it shouldn't be beyond your wit to imagine that even if poison were to have been spread on the pipe, it would have completely evaporated by now, making any analysis impossible. I didn't think of that. In any case, counsel, I fail to see what could possibly have motivated the man to do as you describe. Why on earth would this fellow have wanted to blow air into the gas pipework where he lived? There's only one possibility that I can think of. And that is to use the leaking gas to commit murder. Hold on! Counsel! Precisely whose life do you propose this man was plotting to end? The defendant's? The answer couldn't be simpler, now we've unraveled the mystery this far. Mr. Shakespeare wanted to end the life of Soseki Natsume. If a gas lamp were to go out, it would be noticed immediately, of course. But a gas stove, on the other hand, could be silently extinguished by the killer without anyone noticing. I live around those parts myself, so I know what it's like. I can tell you, trying to sleep without the stove lit is pretty much suicide. You'd freeze to death in no time. Mr. Garrett, the landlord, has a large fireplace in his part of the residence on the top floor. In other words, it wasn't the landlord, but a fellow lodger whose life Mr. Shakespeare was trying to end. Outrageous! I'm talking, of course, about the defendant. Mr. Natsume isn't the villain in this case. He's the victim this man was trying to murder. Good gracious! And if he can get him found guilty, he can get his room without having to kill him. Since killing him seems to be too complicated because the guy constantly wakes up or jumps up awake in the night or something. The accused is actually the aggrieved? Interesting. However, the fundamental facts of the case remain unchanged. Namely, that the accused is the aggressor here. What? How can you still claim that? Let us indulge your fancies for a moment and assume that there was indeed poison on the mouth of the gas pipe. The question that then arises is who put it there? Who did put it there? The only logical conclusion is that the person responsible was aware of this man's trickery with the gas supply and his intent to kill. Yes, that would indeed seem logical. If the assailant were unaware, how would he or she have known to lace the end of the gas pipe with poison? Yeah, that's a fair point. I hadn't thought of that. I wish they hadn't thought of it. So now we must ask, how could anyone have known of Mr. Shakespeare's murderous designs? You mean to suggest? Naturally, the sole possible answer to that question couldn't be more obvious. Only the man whose life was being threatened could possibly have known. What? In other words, the person who put the poison on the gas pipe in what was a clear retaliatory attack can only have been the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Whatever Mr. William Shakespeare may or may not have contrived to do, he was nevertheless the victim of a potentially lethal poison attack. And the only person who could possibly have perpetrated that attack is the accused, Mr. Natsume. Or the fiancée of the previous victim of the same kind of murder. No? Maybe? Possibly? Miss Olive Green? The defense counsel's theorizing has failed to avert suspicion from the accused. Far from it. In fact, now that a clear motive for the poisoning has been successfully established, that suspicion is greater than ever. Would you not agree, my Nipponese friend? Such violence. How did he manage to turn that around on me so rapidly? Mr. Naruhodo, you must respond, otherwise the members of the jury may very well change their leanings against us again. And this may be our last chance to gain the advantage. What advantage? Well, it would seem that somebody put poison on the gas pipe in Mr. Shamspear's room, so we must name that person now and absolve Mr. Natsume of guilt. You mean, name the true culprit? I know it might sound impossible, but if we fail to do that, I have no doubt that Mr. Natsume's fate will be sealed once and for all. As it happens, one possible culprit does come to mind. The evidence, the poison. It's all pointing to a particular person now. And that's why she feels so down about herself? She's ashamed of what she did? Maybe? Olive Green, I mean. The prosecution calls for the jury to consider their leanings again. I trust you'll make the correct choice this time, Mr. Foreman. What? Oh, don't you worry. We know exactly what... There is one other person who I believe could have been involved in all of this. The true culprit of this crime. The true culprit? A term found only in second-rate novels featuring third-rate great detective, my Nipponese friend. But why not? This farce has gone on for so long already, I see no reason to cut it short before its disappointing climax. Thank you. Tell us, my learned Nipponese friend, what is your latest theory? Who is the so-called true culprit of this crime? For me, it's her. The name of the person responsible for the poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspear is, I believe, Miss Olive Green. Miss Olive Green? Miss Olive Green. I do feel as though I've heard that name in the recent past, Counsel, but I don't recall where. Miss Olive Green? The woman from 6 days ago? The victim in the recent case of stabbing on Briar Road, an incident for which Mr. Natsume was arrested, I hasten to add. Oh, of course, yes, Miss Green. She was left comatose for some 3 days, I believe, but I hear she regained consciousness 2 days ago. And I hardly need remind the court that Mr. Shamspear's poisoning took place 3 days ago. Given that the woman was lying comatose in a hospital bed at the time, she appears to have a rather fine alibi. True, on the night that the incident occurred, Miss Green was in hospital unconscious, so on the face of it, it would seem that she couldn't possibly be responsible, but still. My colleagues and I visited Miss Green in hospital yesterday, and we found her to be in possession of a bottle of poison. Good gracious, she had poison? And there is another fact that links Miss Green to this case as well. The defense requests that she be brought to the witness stand in order to explain the details to the court. Tell me, Mr. Shamspear. My lord, pray what be thy bidding? Are you acquainted with Miss Green? No, never heard of her. Judging by the look on Mr. Shamspear's face, I think perhaps he genuinely doesn't know her, at least not by name. As the voice of Her Majesty's prosecution here, I adhere to my word. We will see my learned Nipponese friend's farce through to his conclusion. I appreciate that. The prosecution requests a short recess, my lord, in order to subpoena the witness and bring her here. Yes, Miss Olive Green? Indeed, my lord. 1 hour should be sufficient. Very well, I grant the request. Excellent, I hope. The defense has made a most extraordinary accusation, I must say. But at the present time, I feel the prosecution's argument remains largely uncontested. Accordingly, I'm afraid the defendant and his culpability remain the sole subject of this court's attention. Thank you, counsels. We reconvene in 1 hour. Court is adjourned. Well, you know what? Let's stop here for tonight. That's a good spot. We'll see how things go tomorrow. I believe this to be the final part actually coming up of the trial, but we'll see. So, I'll be off then. Tomorrow I'll be streaming in the afternoon, and hopefully nothing prevents me from doing so. Take it easy, people. Take care of yourselves. Have a good rest of the day, and see you next time then. Tomorrow, hopefully. Bye-bye. Take care.